call this meeting to order at 11:01.
10:01.
10:01. Sorry, I'm on Texas time. 10:01. We have two sheets floating around. There's one for board members and also one for guests. Everybody will sign in. Roll call. Okay. Give Michael a minute to call roll.
At 10 o'clock at night after those bitches from Walker got me so far.
Candy here. Mary is in transit, so Mary's not here yet. I'm here, David's here. Michael Brent,
Here.
Michael Lentz,
He's upstairs in town.
okay, no Lentz. Jack Morgan,
Here.
Lisa Smith,
Here.
Liz McDonald, Steve Petrie,
Here.
Amy Griffin,
Here.
Jeff is not here, David Holwood's not here, Kenneth Hall,
Here.
Jeffrey Neal,
He was here a few minutes ago.
he's sitting right there. See his stuff, okay. Brian Helander,
Present?
Gene Frakes,
Here.
Sammy Simkin, here. Mark Schammel, Janie's not here from Swanee River, Randy Edlin,
Here.
and Kevin Hillman.
Here.
We're good to go.
Chuck's here.
Oh, I skipped right. I'm just so used to you always being here. Yeah. Alrighty. I don't have the rest for that from Kansas City.
I know you had listed as
Yeah.
commissioners. Okay. Any motion for adoption of rules today?
So moved.
Second.
Who was the second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay. So it actually should be, I need a motion to approve the minutes from Kansas City board meeting.
I don't have them with me, just so you know.
Share with everyone?
They should have, right the week after,
Yes.
this form.
Chair.
It's just gonna be. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna postpone that. I'm gonna defer my report, Mary's deferring her report.
I'll defer mine as far as the report. Is this where we address the association's not doing it? Or you wait till after days?
Why don't you, well, you could ask David's questions within yours, so.
Okay. For association renewals, I did not receive any information from Oklahoma, Michigan, or Swanee River. I did receive Kansas, Keystone's paperwork, and we got their payment worked out yesterday. But Oklahoma Michigan and Swanee River, I don't have any paperwork and we don't have any money for. So those associations, based on our bylaws, would not be seated this weekend at convention since they have not renewed and they owe funds to IGRA. Yes?
Do they owe funds other than membership renewal? Because they really don't owe funds. If they just go away, they don't owe us anything.
Well, your annual renewal is due 60 days prior to
But
convention.
if they have no intention of renewing, they don't owe us anything.
Correct.
So that's what I mean by owing.
Yeah. I've sent out numerous emails to the trustees as a group saying, these people I don't have. I got responses and phone calls. We're renewing. We sent it. We sent it to a P.O. box. And I don't have the
On
stuff.
all of those?
Oklahoma. I haven't heard, all I've heard was David Hallwood said that Michigan would renew, but I have nothing to show for it.
Scott told me that he would be here this weekend and pay, but if we don't have any paperwork.
And we can confirm the PO box is open.
Okay. I did get an email yesterday from David that Scott likely would not be here. And I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure the bylaws also state that if an association is not present at convention, they move to recognized association versus a member association. So we know that Great Plains will not be here, and look like Michigan will not be here. So those will move to,
Swanee River.
right. So who all owes? Is there any other funds due or?
Great Plains owes $327.74 for insurance and a possible $800 for dues and fine. Michigan owes $327.74 for insurance plus a possible $800 for dues and fine. Swanee River $327.74 plus a possible $800.
Okay. Yes, Jack.
Has there been any other communication, because we talked about Great Plains, that sent the letter that we discussed in Kansas City board meeting on the insurance of 327, and I thought Candy got an almost immediate response and they said, okay.
Okay, let me just give you an update to a few minutes ago. So, last night or this morning, I received an email from them, and it's showing a $925, money order. We figured that out, money order, and they keep saying that they sent the paperwork and the money order to David. Well, then David, when we open it up, it's to a Oklahoma P.O. box. It's to, and is it their own P.O. box? I
don't know, I didn't look.
Okay, so it's to an Oklahoma P.O. box, and then you can read the front of the money order, and it's handwritten into IGRA, and then it says GPR, but then the back of it, you can't make out. It says he said it's been cleared or whatever, so I responded twice now saying that, again, we need a copy of all the documents to Michael, and you can go to the bank and resolve this and transmit your funds immediately today or tomorrow to David. So I've given him the option, and that would include the fine and the renewal. But I'm just letting everybody know where we are with that. And when the last time I spoke to Janine was maybe first of the week or whatever, and said that they were going to renew. And I said, okay, make sure that you transmit your documents right away to Michael and contact David to transmit the money. So that's been the last correspondence with Swanee River.
So you said it's 927, you said the fine and the renewal, but that, they still owe 327 for the insurance too, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I
That's
don't know what, I
They
don't know.
owe
Yes, it's,
$11.27.
yeah, so that doesn't even add up, because
Yeah.
they're still short.
Yeah, so I don't know where what the 125 was or.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
And the only other change that we have is that Sonora is not renewing for next year. So that addresses the 5 associations total. And then everything else I'll defer to Saturday.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Michael, I only counted, okay, Oklahoma, Michigan, Swanee, and Sonora, and what was the fifth?
Keystone has
Thank
come
you.
current
Right,
as of
right, okay.
last night. They sent their funds through PayPal, and they sent it to a different IDRA PayPal than what David
It
had.
doesn't exist.
But
So we don't have the funds?
we have
the funds.
Yeah, the funds have been, they redirected it to the right place, and David has confirmed that we have the $800 that they owe.
Yes, sir?
So our governing documents as far as renewals require associations to have things done in 60 days. And several associations here have complied and have done what the bylaws require. These have not. They have not submitted their paperwork, they have not submitted their payment. Understand the provision on the payment, if they haven't made that payment, there's a $200 fine for that, but that's if their documents have been submitted. So how are these being handled? We're allowing them to violate the bylaws and submit paperwork
Keystone
after that?
submitted their paperwork a while back.
On time at 60 days?
Yes,
Okay.
Keystone paperwork was okay, they just didn't have the funds at the time, and so then the 600 became 800 after the 60 days.
I beg to differ. That's not my understanding at all, is that there is a fine, you have a 60-day deadline before convention starts to file your paperwork, and you're gonna give us your money. If you don't do that, which is everything, then there's a $200 fine. And so my belief is if you pay the $200 fine, you are basically doing that in lieu of missing the deadline. And it isn't just the deadline for the money, it's the deadline for the paperwork as well. So if they give us the $200 fine, then it's okay, quote unquote, or that was their penalty for not getting it in,
Yeah,
correct? But you have to have the paperwork in before convention starts.
right.
Or-
I've got the
or-
Keystone, I have the paperwork for Keystone, and we have their money. So from my perspective, Keystone's good. But
And
I-
anybody who pays us the $200 fine, they're good too, as long as they give us the things that are on the list, correct? Okay, well then, that's not what you said, that's not what you said, or that's not what I think you
It's the
said.
exact opposite of what I said, and I do believe in what I said.
And you're wrong, okay?
Well, I believe you're wrong, but that's fine.
So, at this point, I'm not expecting to see paperwork from Oklahoma, Michigan, or Swanee River. I don't think I'll be shocked if I get that paperwork between now and Saturday. So, okay.
So is that all you have?
Yeah.
David, did you want?
All I have is the receivables that we just went over, and that the 990 was filed yesterday. Anything else, I'll defer to convention floor.
Are there copies of the 990 available for us to see?
If you request one, I'll send it on.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Just a couple of things that I want to go over in this meeting because it's more direct to the people sitting here. First off is our 2019 rodeo calendar. We are already getting requests for rodeo school schedules. So very, very important between now and the end of the year, we would be submitting our schedule to the insurance company with events to be covered. I stress to you to get your rodeo schools on your rodeo weekend or off on that calendar that is submitted to the insurance company so that it is published with the rodeo 2019 rodeo schedule. It really, really does help everyone in knowing when a rodeo school is being offered. Okay? The next point that I have is I have been approached with a concern of our insurance weights as applied to premiums to an association producing a rodeo and non-producing association. So I would like to ask this body, what meeting or where would I go to have an in-depth evaluation of those weights pertaining to billing associations for responsibility?
Are you talking about that's going back in the minutes and saying this is where we voted to say if you have a rodeo, you get 2 points, if you don't have a rodeo, you have 1 point?
That is the weight that I'm talking about, but I'm not making complaints of past, I'm moving forward. So, I'd like to get a thought process before, our meeting in Phoenix in February, to, when we present to the board.
The calculation.
Correct.
Can that be new discussion today?
Sure. As far as I'm concerned, that would, I guess, Madam President.
Candy's called in.
Yes. So, Candy.
So do you wanna do, go ahead.
Tell me, are they questioning the mathematics of it, or are they questioning the fundamentals of
The mathematics of a non-rodeo producing association compared to a rodeo producing association. Obviously, a rodeo produces more risk
Yeah.
than a non-producing, and it's just, I'll leave it there.
Right, but so they're really questioning that
Yes.
whether or not.
They're questioning the value of a point system. Right now, we value a non-rodeo producing at 1 point, a producing rodeo at 2 points. The thought is that that weight is off. That a producing rodeo is producing a great deal more risk than that of a non-producing at a full point.
And some discussion on that?
I mean, we're gonna,
Yeah.
so the question is, are we moving this discussion to new business, or are we opening the discussion right now? That's,
Well, what would everyone like to do?
It doesn't matter to me. I mean,
I think we're in it right now.
I think we're in it.
Yeah, let's,
If we don't get bogged down in it.
yeah, okay.
That's what I was asking.
Michael?
I guess my question is, if a non-producing association gets 1 point and a producing association gets 2, the rodeo association that's producing a rodeo is paying twice as much as what the non-producing. So the non-producing associations want the producing associations to pay more than double. Is that an accurate understanding?
Like half to 2.5 or something like that?
Yeah.
I think Amy was first and then Mike.
I understand that the liability is different. I think we also need to keep in mind that the cost is going to be split amongst a smaller number of payees in 2019 because we have rodeo shrinkage.
Association shrinkage.
Sorry, association shrinkage. Thank you, Tom.
That is correct. That is correct. So this year, even if, and I don't expect our premium to go up from X thousands of dollars to X, Y, Z thousands, but like Amy just said, our associations are going down, so your payment is going to go up. Okay? And the thought process is, and I'd like to hear from Mike.
Michael's next and then Kevin.
yeah, well, I have an opinion on this. As a representative from an association that doesn't currently produce a rodeo, there are 3 components to our insurance bill with KF. One is the liability policy, which basically was established as a way to pool the cost of rodeo insurance, because we've always had a rodeo insurance requirement, and that rodeo insurance requirement really became important around 1992, 93, when we began to get international sponsorships, and our contracts actually said you must have at first $1 million insurance, and then it was $2 million once they went to Bud Light. And so the cost of insurance way back then was about $1,200 to $1,500 per association. And we discovered that if we got an IGRA policy, we could pay significantly less per rodeo by pooling the insurance policy. So it was a huge savings as you look for the group. And so that's the first piece of the cost of our insurance. The second piece is the directors and officers insurance for IGRA, which covers basically most of the people in this room, except the guests, I guess. But but if we harm the guests, that actually helps. And then there's a third piece, and that's the directors and officers insurance that we have basically created a discount program with CALIF that they will give directors and officers insurance to each individual association, and there's an option to buy in, and I'm not sure what our proportion of opt-ins are. It used to be higher, I think it's been dropping, right? 50%, is it even that? The third piece. But that's not what I'm talking about. The thing that we've been doing is we've been lumping the insurance that was created for the rodeos with the D&O, and then we've been splitting that across all associations. And because there was, in theory, more risk for the rodeo associations, we gave them a 2-point share versus a 1-point share. Well, my issue is that my association, as a non-rodeo producing association, basically gets no coverage from the liability part at all, which is the largest part of the insurance. And so, I understand the idea of having poor people support wealthy people. That's kind of how things are set up in this world. But I think it's unfair to the non-hosting associations to be paying so much of the rodeo producing associations insurance. And the key is, as a non-rodeo producing association, I don't have the stream of income to pay that bill. And I'll give you a really kind of sad example. The IGRA insurance is almost 20% of the annual cost of the operations of my association. So, and this kind of came to fruition when I was watching. I wasn't participating in person at the Kansas City meeting, but I sat through the whole damn thing in front of my computer. And it was probably a good thing that I was that far away. So Oklahoma actually said, well, we don't see that we get benefit from this insurance, and this is a financial burden. And I'm like, wow, that's not true just for them. That's true for my association too. And the interesting thing is, Oklahoma kind of like put their feet on the ground. They put their words in action, because they then died. And so I really think we have to do everything we can to support the rodeo producing associations. But I'd really like us to do something to support the non-rodeo producing associations. And it's probably okay if all the non-rodeo producing associations just go away. That's probably all right. But is that what we want?
No.
No.
So my thoughts were 2-to-1 is definitely not fair. I don't mind my association putting something forward. I know we do have efforts to promote other rodeo associations. We actually do, when we do an event, we do these cards, which is kind of funny. I developed this recipe, and it's called a cowboy cookie. And we always have these damn cookies at all of our events. And that's a recipe card for the cookie. So, and the back of that recipe card is an announcement of our trail rides and how to get involved in ASRA. The bottom half of it is always the next 3 IGRA rodeos. And it has the IGRA logo on it, just in case there's a problem with that. We are attempting to help the rodeo producing associations, but we'd like some help too. And so I'd like to go to 4-to-1 would be what I would propose. So 4 points for a rodeo producing association and 1 point for a non-producing association.
Is that a
And that's,
motion?
and that's, excuse me, that's just on the liability portion. I'm willing to take the exact correct share for the DNO part, because I think we do share that equally. So I think split that up equally, and the liability side, and I'm hoping Caleb can give us a bill that says these are what
Oh,
the
it is.
pieces are.
So, may I, Candy?
Sure.
Okay, so to clarify, well, let Brian raise his hand.
Okay, well, Kevin was next and then Brian.
Really quick, I know we're talking about some of us don't receive benefits who don't produce a rodeo. I'm a non-producing rodeo association. The benefits that I receive from that, I just added it up, and it's around $460 that I did not have to pay for insurance to events that is covered by IGRA when I asked Tommy to put out a policy for me. So I do receive benefits from that insurance. I might not receive as many as some of the other associations, but for me, $460 is money I didn't pay out of my association's pocket for insurance for Pride Days, special events that we put on and associated ourselves with. I understand wanting to weigh it differently, but I still think those of us who don't produce rodeos, who are using the insurance this way, it is a benefit to us.
Brian?
No, I was just wondering for the non-rodeo producing associations, when they do put on a special events, what liability coverage they are providing, or that they have.
So,
Are they just-
a non-rodeo producing?
Yeah, so
Okay,
if they put on a special.
if you remember back to at our previous meeting where we talked about the GPR question, the mere existence is an exposure to IGRA. If you are an IGRA association, you are creating some risk just by being there. Now, as opposed to a rodeo, it is a great deal less, as Michael expressed. Your coverage would be participation in things like a gay pride parade or some function where you're promoting your association.
Just like an example, like, so let's say I was a non-rodeo producing association, and we sponsored a trip to Gay Pride. We got our members and said, hey, let's all go to Gay Pride and represent NMGRA. We went to Gay Pride and somebody's run over by a float.
Yes.
How do I cover myself as a non-rodeo association?
You're covered
By
by that portion.
police.
Yes. Yes.
Just
Now,
wondering.
if you have a horse brigade, there may be some extra premium for you to cover, because that's not built in, as I understand.
I'm just saying, I think that's important for the non-rodeo producing associations to understand that coverage.
Yes, and as I understand, Michael and others, they're not objecting to their fair share, but that's the key word, fair share. A rodeo, where, when you produce a rodeo or an event like that, the risk is tremendous compared to Gay Pride.
We need a motion to extend if we're gonna continue this.
So
And Jeff.
If I may, this is not a rule, there is no.
Hang on a second.
I'm sorry.
All right, all those in favor of extending, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, we're gonna extend,
Okay.
sorry. Nay.
There is currently no rule in place. This has been a practice that we adopted many years ago when we started this process. So my question is simply, I would like, I really don't, I didn't necessarily want a total answer today in this meeting. I think we need to evaluate the weights in what we call points applied to $1. And I I think it's an extremely valid point.
Any other discussion?
So as long as we have general consensus, we can move
You
forward.
made a motion, you made a motion though, didn't you?
So that was a proposal, but you know, we have to make a decision by February 20, I guess it's an odd year next year, the 28th. And so, I'd like to just do some, actually, work with Tommy to bring some information to the board, and we can make a better informed decision based on actual numbers. Because I'm okay with waiting, I just felt it was an important point to bring up. And to get the discussion and to get people thinking about it. And whether you're opposed to it or for it, that's not, I don't think as important right now as it is to think about it.
Okay.
And so I think the next step in thinking about it is actually evaluating the numbers. And so let's present the numbers and,
Question real fast
We can make
about
this-
that. So do we have time before, because you usually send out the bills right first or middle of February, right?
well, we're gonna have a meeting in February.
I know, this one, I'm just making sure there's time that he's not gonna send that out prior to that meeting.
Seconds before.
I'll probably do it during the meeting.
Okay.
He sends the invoice during the meeting
Okay,
after it's
so then,
approved.
all right, so then
Because
that's,
the quote, I don't think we have next year's quote yet, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it would be nice to actually have the
That's
quote
right.
in hand,
Okay.
look at what the numbers are, and make a decision, and do that in February.
Gene?
I have a statement and a question. The statement would be, when this decision gets made, I do believe it should be made by an entire board of directors, not the executive board or not the trustees or the entire board of directors. That's just an opinion. Then my question would be is for associations like I'm aware of now, North Star, my association, and Diamond State, Lisa's association, where we alternate years of having a rodeo. These quotes are always one-year quotes, right? So we would be non-producing on our off year versus producing on our, okay, thank you.
So Bill, go down when you're in.
David's, Tommy and then David.
Oh, okay, so, just so you know, the reason I brought this up is I did not want you to have shock when a new formula was presented in February, because your premiums are going to go up simply by, like Amy said, we're losing associations, so your premium is going to go up.
I think it's really
Hang
important.
on, David was
Sorry.
next and then
I'd just like to point out, because of these three associations who have not paid for this year's insurance, that's $983.22 to IGRA's bottom line.
And that will be, if they're not back next year, that will be $900 more to the rest of us, or that will be?
Well, the association number will go down, and the rodeo number will go down for next year.
yeah. Gene?
Okay, but the insurance that's due from these associations is insurance for this year, correct? Whether they come back next year or not, in my mind, has no bearing on whether they pay this year's insurance, because they were here all year this year. And if they don't pay it, then this board needs to decide, what does that mean for that association? Are they, and I hate to even use the phrase, but does that association and become not in good standing and can never form again at that point? I don't know that as an answer, but to me, it's a debt, that liability, when they dissolve that needs to be listed as a liability for sure for that corporate incorporation.
Okay. And ask if they, sorry.
Okay, so, but all of the associations, bless you, in the shrinkage program, none of them, with the exception of occasionally Michigan, are rodeo producing associations, right? Because Oklahoma stopped. Swanee, no.
Michigan, no.
Sonoran, no. Michigan, once in a blue moon. Will they automatically become recognized associations, or do they just fall off the map?
without.
Off
any-
that, okay, thank you.
To answer Gene's question, my understanding of our bylaws is if I assess North Star a $200 fine for being late with your renewal application, and you don't pay that fine, you don't get seated at convention. But now, come first quarter board meeting, you show up at the board meeting, you're gonna sit at that table and conduct business just like all the other trustees. No,
You're gone.
Not if you're not seated.
Once you're gone, you're gone.
But if, okay, what I'm getting at, well, definitely, you're right, they're not seated.
They could come back and become a recognized association by going through the whole list of starting over, but that's the point at which we would have to say, is this the same entity? Are you carrying a liability that exists on our books?
Yes.
So we do have to decide at some point, I mean, IGRA paid the bill, and we have a money that we paid that we didn't owe, we expected someone else to pay. But at some point, we're gonna have, in 20 years, we're gonna say, well, we're never gonna get this money, we have to write it off. The question is, when do we write it off, and how do we forgive it? And if there's a new entity that comes forward, is that really the same entity? Do they owe that money? Or if it's a whole new entity, we're probably not gonna be able to say they owe the old money.
Yeah, because if I go from OGRA to GPRA, then does money that OGRA owed IGRA stay in the past with the old association?
Probably
And you
not.
got the same people that
If it's
created
a
the
new corporation, legally, they wouldn't.
Right, okay.
That's the point of corporations is that.
Okay, but Mike, the example Michael gave is different than what you're saying. The example Michael gave, North Star paid their $600 annual dues and submitted the paperwork, and they did it late. So they were assessed a fine. They didn't go away, they were assessed a fine. So it would be no different than if they were assessed a fine at their last rodeo that they didn't pay. And so I believe he is accurate in the way our bylaws read that says I won't be seated at convention, but it doesn't mean that I'm not seated at board meetings to conduct business.
Now,
There's no other.
If you're not seated at convention, or you're not renewed at convention.
No, I am renewed at convention. I've
Okay.
just not paid my fine.
Oh, we're not supposed to accept your renewal until fines are paid.
But that's not what happens. I'm telling you that.
Okay, yeah,
I think it is, David. I mean, do you let people renew and then they owe us money? I don't think you do, and we don't let people.
They're not
redeem
seated
those.
at convention if they
Yeah.
owe for a fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, they're not seated at convention, but their application is accepted and they're listed as a member association, right?
Technically, no.
Technically no, or reality no. I mean,
Right.
that's my
Can't be
point.
You can't be seated.
Because I've seen it happen both ways,
we
so.
shouldn't be. Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Section
so
9C.
we have, for Oklahoma, Michigan, Swanee, I don't know how to pronounce that exactly, Sonoran presumably. We have trustees for those associations, right? Whose terms, I believe technically, don't expire today, they expire like at the end of the year, or the end of next year, or the end of the year after. But, okay, well, let me use Liz. Liz isn't here. Liz is the trustee for Oklahoma. If Oklahoma's not renewing, then she doesn't have a seat at the table, right? Is that?
In February.
No.
February.
That's on Saturday morning.
On Saturday morning, she won't be seated.
Saturday morning, we should lose a job.
Jack.
So I just want to be clear, so if they're not renewing, they're no longer, at roll call Saturday morning, they no longer exist. Meaning that that position on the board no longer exists in any capacity or recognition to IGRA. So any of these four associations that aren't renewing, as of Saturday morning roll call, all positions, all influence is dissolved, correct?
Saturday morning, they will not have a table on convention floor.
Yeah, or any of the officers or board of directors, nothing. As a roll call Saturday morning, that goes away. I want to be
I think-
very clear,
okay.
that's my interpretation.
But I think we got off track. First, we were talking about insurance, and now we're talking about something different. It's time we've exceeded again. So unless there's a motion to talk more about, well, we've already said we're gonna defer that.
I'm happy with the insurance discussion. I think I know what to do.
I have one question about the insurance. though.
Okay.
So the policy renews at the end of February, right?
March 1.
March one, okay. Beginning of March. Our board meeting in February is very shortly before March first. Is this something that we need to address, or, I don't know, is there enough time for us to just look at this at the February board meeting, make a decision, and then move forward with the waiting?
Yes.
Or is it something that we need to?
No, there's plenty of time.
Am I correct?
And that's why it's March 1.
Brian,
Oh, sorry.
Brian's next.
I just wanted to ask, did I understand that it's Tommy and who's going to be preparing and presenting the data on the insurance numbers and et cetera to the board?
At the meeting?
You are.
I will.
Okay, I was just gonna suggest that maybe it should be a diverse group of people that have input.
First what?
Like a
Diverse
subcommittee?
group of people.
I would love that.
All right.
Would you like to be on that committee?
I can't be, no, I cannot be.
Michael?
I'd like to work with Tommy to present and.
Michael and I and David are who came up with the current weight system, so.
Anyone else want on the committee? We'll have like a little subcommittee that they can get together and, talk about the weighting and the insurance? Is that fair?
My idea is to present it basically almost the way we've done in the past.
Yeah.
And then to present some options and to show what the real effect of the options are. And you can't really know what the real effects are until CALIF is
Get the
quoted.
amount.
So
I
our
understand.
next step is to wait on CALIF. We have a spreadsheet already, and we can just modify that to look at some options.
Great. Perfect.
Sure.
Sounds good. So we're done with that.
Thank you. Don't forget your rodeo schools.
Oh, okay, and Chuck, I apologize, I didn't have my spreadsheet up, I skipped you, our agenda. Are you deferring or did you have something?
I was just gonna clarify with Tommy that there's two different portions of the insurance. There's one that covers the IGRA Board of Directors, that's
DOD.
$327. That
How much?
$327. And this year, each association paid that because each association has a trustee.
If the board of trustees reduces to 10, then it's divided by 10.
Correct.
Thank you. Equally, the BOD.
Okay, did you have a trustee chair, a report, or you deferring?
I defer.
Okay, thank you. Corporate auditor, are you deferring that to?
Yes.
Is he sent?
He
Okay.
will be here to present.
Perfect. Association President Sandy and Tim, you deferring that, or you've got?
No, Candy.
Huh?
Did you say Candy?
No, I said Sandy and Tim.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Deferring, okay. Liz, not present. David, you're going to defer. Benjamin defers, that one. Sorry.
Oh, never mind, I'll wait, sorry, it doesn't apply to this, I apologize.
Okay, and you.
Down row.
No, we've got it.
So you'll be the next.
So we're going to go to membership.
Yeah.
Okay, as most of you know, you received the paperwork for our new association in Canada. They were planning to pay their fee this weekend if they get recognized as a member association. They submitted all the paperwork. The only paperwork that we did not have back was the recognition from the government that they would be recognized as a nonprofit. Judy's here with us this morning. Judy emailed me earlier this week that they got an update from the government or whatever, and that they would have, they're expecting the certificate or whatever it is in 2 weeks. So they don't have their nonprofit status from the government. It has been applied for. So my question is, do we move forward, or do we just table this and wait until they get their certificate of nonprofit status from the government? Amy?
What do the bylaws say? Do they say you must have this?
You have to be incorporated as a nonprofit to be a member association. So, yes, Judy?
Further to that, as of yesterday, we got confirmation, we re-signed, the board members re-signed for the provincial government. The bylaws have been approved, so there's really nothing else to happen. Technically, they basically approved what they need to approve, they've approved all the other steps. So, Wayne texted me this morning and said that he's waiting for the lady, and it should happen either today's Thursday, right? Or tomorrow, hopefully. And if not, we're at the very, very, very end of that. And we do have one of our former ARGRA board members actually, JT, who works with the government, and so he's kind of keeping his finger on things too and trying to push it forward. So we should have it within the next couple of days. I have a check for $600 US here that's just burning a hole in my pocket. But I guess there's the option, or I guess our question is, would the board consider approving it based on, the documentation coming through?
Frank, could you roll back up to the section of what the list of things? Yeah, right there. So Judy, are you saying that item 4 is the only thing that's missing right now?
Yes, the current bylaw, the officers, membership list, board resolutions, yes. Yes, I've given all that to Michael. The only thing that we're lacking is number 4. And it's in the process, it's just.
But you think it's possible you'll get it today or tomorrow?
Yes, Wayne has been, since we submitted the application, he's been calling weekly, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week, because the process is so slow. Believe it or not, it's all hand done. There's no computer in provincial government. But so he's been calling. Our last indication was he asked the woman in charge if she could expedite it. She said she's pulled the file, they're reviewing it, and that's when she contacted him and said, okay, could we just have these signatures again and approve the bylaws? So really, we're just waiting for the final stamp, but we don't have it yet.
My belief is that this is it's a membership issue, and it's a convention floor issue, and that they've got 2 days, about 48 hours, 46 hours now. That something could happen that would make this all come together. If that doesn't come together, I think we deal with the didn't come together after we know it didn't come together. I'd rather not spend an hour talking about what could be when we don't know what is.
So we'll table membership for now, is what you're saying?
Well, I don't think we need to do, we're not dealing with membership. The membership is really handled by the convention floor. That's really the owner of this issue. And if on the convention floor, somebody needs to stand up and say something, and I won't say what that is, but I have some ideas, and we'll let them stand up and say that then, that we don't need to deal with it now.
Okay. The only other piece of item in membership is that we have one association that did not renew, and that's Sonoran. So that will drop away. That's all I have for membership.
Okay. I would assume nominating is deferred.
Obviously, because he's not here.
Brian, do you have anything, are you deferring? Okay. Rodeo officials,
We'll defer to the floor.
okay. David, you're referring to, Lawson? You're referring, you're referring. It was just checking to see if you were awake back there. Alina. Deferring. Committee's Kevin, you wanna, he's out of the room now. Convention, okay. Michael? You wanna? Moves it to you.
Worked with Kevin this year, and Lisa was a huge help for UGRA. And I know Kevin has some thoughts about convention and ways to make it better for the next whoever hosts the convention next year. I know Kevin's got a whole group of people set up. I don't have anything else to say yet.
Okay. I think pretty much all these next ones, unless Amy has something, no, she's disappeared. Everything's probably deferred, except for, you want to say anything right now? You want to defer your- okay, perfect. So how about we take a 10-minute break?
Oh, okay.
Oh, sound good? Okay, 10 minutes. I got one this year. All right, we'll call meeting back to order. I don't see Laura. Kevin, we had skipped you a while ago. Did you have anything for convention?
That pertains to this meeting, not just to the convention for itself.
Okay.
To welcome you all here. We will have the lunch for you. It's a box lunch, so that you can now get here, and it's a grab and go. So there's a couple of choices, so when one runs out, you grab the other one. We will have more information available tomorrow, or this evening at the registration desk, which will be right outside here. And we are doing a luncheon tomorrow, which is a box lunch of 2 for everyone, and a seated dinners on Saturday and Sunday. If you have any questions or anything, please contact me. If you're having trouble, also Rayanne Groh and Katina Seguro, whose name I just slaughtered, can help you, and just want to welcome you all here.
So I guess all the WRF stuff, so,
Information technology.
well, if Frank wants to talk, whatever, I think they're gonna defer that too, just,
That's not my division.
yeah. Christopher asked Adam to do the report,
Okay.
so we're gonna defer that.
Okay.
All right. So, I don't see Laura in the room, and she did respond to a text just now, so we do have the, 2019, arena and hotel contract signed and good. So, you know that. So do we have any other?
The hotel was paid this week, right?
Yep, it's all taken care of. And all of it, everything's been returned, and then I got a receipt, or a confirmation from the gentleman at the Marriott, so. Anything I've missed, any of those reports, that anybody's back in the room that? No? Okay, we'll go to, unfinished business. I think Brian and Mary were working on the, trademarks. I guess I wanna ask a question here, because I have a lot of people ask me this, and, I have my own opinion about it. Certainly, we've had the IGRA for years, and, I really have no problem with that, but I'm not sure about the WGRF. Is there anybody in this room besides me that, is uncomfortable with that name for our finals? Because I have lots of contestants and other folks ask me about it. Okay?
I remember a few short years ago, a very, very heated discussion on convention floor on this very topic.
Okay.
And it was, in my opinion, pretty overwhelming that WGRF was the proper, at that time.
Okay. Robert?
Jack was first.
I agree with Tommy, we had a very heated discussion. However, I was a little bit more at that time inclined to keep it because of our history. However, this year we had the privilege, and I do consider it a privilege, of having some young, new, competitive rough stock riders. And 2 of them approached me and said, We have friends that wanna participate, are uncomfortable with the word gay. How do we get them, you know, comfortable, this and that? And I literally, you know, put my hand and I was having a conversation and they both just stood there. And I'm like, okay, would they be uncomfortable and offended with that? They said, yeah, they'd probably slug you. I'm like, well, if they're uncomfortable with the word gay, then they're definitely gonna be uncomfortable because that happens here, right?
Mhm.
So I guess I say that for all of our consideration because I think it's two aspects. I think it's behavioral, and I think it's verbiage. But I do think that the labeling, for lack of better terms, and we grew up in a different generation, is not as necessary as it was before. We wanted inclusion, that we, I think as a community, as a gay community, we have it. I don't feel that it's as prevalent, and we don't need to segregate it, and I think, my opinion, and I think I speak for our association, it limits our ability to be competitive in nature, and in attendance, and just, I think it's outdated, my opinion.
Robert?
So yeah, I just wanted to address the board that's here. It was 2016, I was the committee chair of World Gay Rodeo Finals, committee chair that year. And committee passed unanimously to change the name of the World Gay Rodeo Finals to International Finals Rodeo or something like that. But there was a conflict because somebody already had the name. But we were beat up as a committee. I remember standing at the microphone and everybody in the room introducing themselves as, hi, I'm Joe and I'm gay. But we got that, you know, and so we were hit very hard. But as the chair, you know, we struggled with that same thing. I personally wanted to change it. Like I said, the committee voted unanimously that, yes, let's go with something different. But be prepared.
No, I understand. I just, what Jack said, and I have,
Yeah.
a lot of contestants and other people approached me and asked me about it. Robin and I had a conversation. She can tell you as getting sponsorships and things like that.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge, and they sometimes they'll even ask you, you know, is there a reason? You know, that has to have that because you know, I do a lot of horse events and, you know, it doesn't say, you know, whatever straight or, you know, so I just wondered. I think Michael and Judy. Oh, sorry, Frank.
I'm not part of this board, but I would like to make basically it's a comment. I understand it's very complicated, but something that I have noticed, and I don't think it's directly related to the word gay, but since I've been involved, every association that took the word gay out of their name died the same year. I don't think it's directly related to that, but I think it's more probably the attitude of the people who were forcing the word out. But every association that has taken this word gay out the last 10 or 15 years has died in the same year. As far as a very active rodeo producing association.
We have Diamond State that doesn't have the word gay.
They
and
started out that way.
Okay.
They had a very good reason for they did.
And so we have Diamond State that's producing a rodeo every other year. I worked a lot with Keystone last year and this year on their rodeo. Last year, they had gay in the rodeo name. This year, they changed it specifically because of the feedback that they got back that people like gay. So they did a Keystone Charity Rodeo in Harrisburg, thinking that would help things. But so the people are, in some cases, taking the name out or trying to make it more inclusive, it's not just gay. We accept anyone that's willing to compete and not discriminate or be improper.
Judy?
I don't think it's as much a discrimination as it is, we can still be inclusive, but it differentiates us. I mean, let's face it, we're not a straight rodeo. And if we have contestants who sign up to compete in our rodeo and don't know it's a gay rodeo and don't know about some of our camp events or whatever the situation is, I think it's a little misleading. We had a little bit of a problem a couple years ago with ARDRA and the way that they built ARDRA, and there were a number of straight people who came to that rodeo and they had marketed it that way, and it was a little bit of an issue. So I think it differentiates us, and I don't think there's anything wrong with differentiating us. We're still inclusive, you know, we're not saying just gay people, but I think that it separates us, and I don't really wanna compete with all the local rodeos all around in Alberta. But there's one gay rodeo, right, and that separates us.
You didn't see me, I've been blank.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I kinda agree and disagree. I think we don't need to be segregated anymore. I mean, our culture has evolved. And as far as new members coming into rodeos, it's that membership association's responsibility to educate that new member on what the rodeo is all about. So that should prevent any challenges with not knowing that we're a gay organization.
Okay.
One of the things I have on this conversation is identity. I've been involved with rodeo since I was very young, and so have my family, and a lot of you have. And when we talk about identity, we talk about the Black Rodeo Association, the Indian rodeos. They all have an identity, and that's who they are. And I think if we start throwing away the word gay as our identity, or are afraid to use that identity, we're no longer identifying by who we are. And that's why I strongly feel that we need to keep these identity issues in our names.
Sam?
I agree a lot with what Jack was saying. And with the identity thing, one of the things that is, I've had a lot of people come up that have talked about the word gay in there, and that's why they don't want to compete. I'm looking at more of a building or association to try to get it larger. And I mean, I think from a membership standpoint, if we put it as a diversity rodeo or whatever name you wanted to use, that understood it was for not just gay people, but open-minded people to come to this rodeo. Because the younger generation doesn't have to go to gay specific things anymore. And that's what I think a lot of us in my age group and older understand, that you used to have to go to very specific things like that. They don't anymore. They are just incorporated in America. And this discussion, I was involved in it 2 years ago and wanted to change then, very much so, for the same reasons. So I don't know, do we get a committee, do we do something, but I think this needs to be looked at.
Brian?
I was just gonna say that the sad fact is that we are gay. We're all gay in this room. The majority of our membership is gay. And to me, on a very personal level, this is internalized homophobia. And I wouldn't support removing the word gay from any of the stuff that we do. I think it is a different world, and I think that using the word gay should not matter. And I think it's a mistake.
Well, I'm not sad for being gay. I don't know about that statement. Lisa?
I hear a lot about our membership. We're not getting new members because we use the word gay, possibly as World Gay Finals or your association. And I hope people aren't misconstruing the idea of lack of participation in membership because we are gay. We have to ask ourselves a question. Don't let this be a reason to change it because of strength or maintain our strength because we're using the word gay. We couldn't get to our rodeos contestants this year, and they were all gay people that didn't come to the rodeos. The strength was down, so let that be a thought that it's not because we're using the word gay. Don't let that be a reason.
Brian?
I was just gonna say, Ken, just to clarify, I didn't mean that it was sad that we were gay, and that I felt sad that we were gay. What I was trying to convey was that we are gay, and it's sad that we have to try to cover it up.
Okay, well, the reason I brought it up, Brian, is that Sam, Jack, a lot of us, these people ask us, so I wanted to bring it up. I think it's a very valid question, and as we see, there's very differing opinions, and I agree. right? I'm not ashamed of being gay. I'll put that out there right now. I've never been. But I'm looking at moving forward with things, and so when these younger people that we're trying to enlist in our rodeos, when they bring these questions to me or whatever, I'm certainly gonna bring them to this board. So that's the reason that it came up. Gene?
I've been sitting here trying to formulate what I want to say to express what I feel right now, and so I'm going to try. When I came here in 1998, I showed horses as a kid, but I really had nothing to do with rodeo, and I didn't know anything about rodeo. But and I was just coming out as being gay. And it was at that time it was a lifesaver for me. However, I know there was more to it than what I was able to find in 1998. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I believe fortunately for me, but I wasn't exposed to what many, many people in this room and in our association had to deal with before that. In the early years, I was able. It didn't happen for me. Whether it be in gay rodeo or just in life and society in general, I didn't have to experience that because I stayed in the closet hiding until I was well into my adult years. But I can remember after my very first year of rodeo, and I started going to other rodeo type events. I lived in Fort Worth, Texas, so they were all over the place. I remember making the statement to somebody that year that said, will we ever be able to just be a rodeo? Just be another rodeo? Will we always have to carry the term gay? Mostly I thought that because even people around me in the 90s freaked out when they heard that word gay. And this is coming from someone who was barely out of the closet at that time. And I really didn't believe that we would ever lose that. And it had nothing to do with identity. It had nothing to do with separating us from the other. It was just, I don't know, to me it didn't feel wrong. In fact, it felt very right to me, but I didn't want to be different. I didn't want my sexual orientation to govern what I could or couldn't do. And we are very inclusive. I'm not questioning that part of it. It's just a word to me. It may not be to everybody else who had to suffer the stuff that I didn't have to. And I don't want to take away from that. But at finals this year, I decided to invite people that I work with. I'm out at work. I work for an airline that's very accepting and inclusive, but I decided to invite them. And when I wrote if we're going to do that to a whole department, it has to go through our supervisor. So I wrote the email to invite them, and in this email, I was very clear about what kind of rodeo it was and what kind of what they might expect to see. I expressed it is family friendly. You can bring your children to this. I expressed that they work very hard to make it that way. However, you might see these things. My boss called me. She's never called me. It scared me to death if I was fired. She called me and she said to me, she says, I want to change your email before I send this out. And I said, okay, how so? She says, I don't believe you should have to explain what you explained. And she said, and I don't want you to feel that way. I said, I wasn't feeling bad. I said, Rita, I just didn't want people to be surprised. And I have that conversation with everybody that I invite to our rodeo. I think we might be there where we don't have to explain that. After having her, this straight 60-year-old woman that I work for, come and tell that to me, maybe we're there, or we're getting pretty damn close. So I don't want to necessarily take gay out of our name because that's who I identify with, because I don't identify gay as part of me. Again, I don't want to negate those people who had to suffer where I didn't. But today, I just want to be a rodeo. Thank you.
I'd like to make sure that we have a way to reveal how inclusive we are. I don't think we have to necessarily eliminate the label gay. I'm very proud of being gay. In fact, I'd like to say that being gay helped make me a much better person. It gave me a lot more opportunities than if I hadn't been gay. So I'm very happy I'm gay. But I do want us to be able to show that we're inclusive. And so that people who aren't gay, who don't identify with that particular label, know that we want them to participate with us and that we're accepting of them. So I'm not sure what the solution is to that. So I'm not looking to get rid of something, I'd kind of like to add something. Yeah, the gay and straight rodeo. Which is redundant.
Steve?
Just an example, I play in the gay softball leagues, and we're the, gay softball league, and we're playing the Gay World Series. We have more straight people playing in the gay leagues now than at any other time. And
Probably because they have some more fun.
yeah, it's fun. And but now the Association for the International for the Gay World Series, NAGA, is trying to change the rules that you can only have so many straight people on a team.
It's actually true.
But what's happening is, I mean, some of the teams are 75% straight, and personally, is not the name that's keeping people away. I like the competition because, I mean, hey, bring it on, because that's more money for all of us. But they're not afraid of the name because they know it's called, our league is Palm Springs, gay softball league. So I don't think gay has anything to do with it. It's more inclusive these days. So that was just an example.
Judy?
One of the things that I think I think we're afraid of looking old and being old and keeping the word gay, and we don't need to. Young people don't mind the word gay. They don't mind the word transgender. They don't mind any of that. Like, they're accepting of all of that. And and if we're worried about straight people not wanting to compete because it has a word gay in it, well then maybe they need to open up a little bit, and we need to be able to pull them in and say, look, this is who we are. Maybe there's a learning curve there. But I don't think we change it for that. Let me tell you about the Calgary Stampede. This is how current it is and how important it is in marketing. A few years ago, a bunch of us got together and said, hey, let's all go to Stampede on this day. And let's all wear our pride shirt, right? So we did. And so the Stampede board saw that year after year after year, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now they have a pride, they call it a gay day / pride day. And this year, in our pride parade, for the first time ever, the Calgary Stampede had a float. And that's a bunch of old, white, straight, narrow-minded men. So, they're not afraid of the word gay. It's marketing. They're going, yeah, bring it on. So, maybe it's education.
Yep, maybe. Okay, Frank?
One last comment, and I'll shut up.
Okay.
We need to also consider, there are some people who have come to us that we'd like to compete, but we don't like the word gay. How many people have done that? I don't know. I would suspect it's maybe 10 or 15 total. And we're making an awful big deal of those few possible contestants.
Lisa?
One other thing, I understand the sponsorship difficulty, especially me coming from Arkansas, Texas, your smaller states. It's tough, but they're out there. There are, people from Arkansas, and the businesses are not people from Arkansas. They come from the west coast, the east coast, so they're pretty liberal. You get in there and find the right button. So that too, I feel like sponsorship maybe is not quite the reason to change the name.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on what Judy said, she said it first. I think, marketing is a very important thing for us. Marketing gets spectators in the seats, marketing gets sponsorships, where we're not having to sponsor our own buckles within our own associations, but expanding our participants to more than just those of us in these associations. I'm in a gay bowling league, I bowl on Monday nights, and at one point we had the whole house, every lane on Monday nights, biggest bowling league in the country. So marketing, I think, is something we need to look at in the future.
What time is it? Oh, go ahead, David.
So one thing to kind of think about too is just like value added. If we're gonna change our name to add more people, like if you're adding a whole bunch of people, or maybe 3 or 4 people that don't add any value to the association, and they just show up, jump on an animal, get their money and leave, there's not a lot of value added in that particular membership. So, you know, if we're
Totally agree, David.
we probably need to put ourselves out there toward individuals and groups that are gonna add value to ourselves, not
Okay.
take away from it.
Okay, our time's expired, so now, Mr. Helander.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know Mary told me that I think she's ready to, I think all she had to do is, file one more thing or whatever, she's gonna be here later. So about the IGRA Euro, it's all done?
Related to the registration of the trademark.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I did have a long conversation with Mary. Mary sort of took the ball, and I've been advising her on that.
Okay.
And she is trying to revive the trademarks.
Okay.
And it's just a matter of completing the application process, submitting the required documents.
Okay.
Relatively simple.
All right, I think that's what she told me too, I just wanted, okay, so I think we're pretty much done with that conversation. Everybody seems to be fine with it, and so am I. Okay? New business. Rodeo application review process. Update criteria. I think our form just needed to be updated just a little bit, and, I even had an idea perhaps on the, the bottom of our rodeo application, that we might even have a statement that says, IDRA, holds no financial responsibility, towards this event, to like protect us, but anyway, maybe we'll have like a, that's one of the forms I think we were talking about, SOPs that might just need to get updated a little bit.
I guess, there's been a lot of discussion in the last year about association rodeo applications, and if IDRA is rubber stamping the application, or is IDRA actually looking to see that the rodeo has a reasonable, expectation to be successful. We've had a number of significant, big, visible missteps happen. When these took place, several trustees were like, oh, we need to go to convention and fix this. So that's why, that is on the agenda, is do we want to do anything different in how we review rodeo applications? We've got at least 4 that we're going to, probably approve this weekend. Are we looking to do anything different than what we've always done?
You want to go with the, you want to go individually?
Sure.
Because I'm gonna ask the question.
Okay, I'm gonna take each one of these one at a time. Since our last meeting, these 4 associations have filed the paperwork for their rodeo application for 2019 to be approved by the Board of Directors. First one is Palm Springs.
Steve, I'm gonna ask 2 questions. Is your 2018 rodeo paid for?
Yes.
And do you have I'm sure you have a budget or whatever, but you have, you've already started working on your 2019 for.
Yes.
Okay.
Fundraiser.
Yes, in their paperwork, it did show their financials.
Yes, they always do,
Yeah.
they do a good
Yeah.
job of that.
So I'll make a motion that Palm Springs rodeo application be approved.
Second?
Jack, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Approved, yay.
Next one is Denver. That application was sent out to everyone, end of this, I guess this week or end of last week. Jack submitted the dates. When they submitted the application, I pointed out that the dates were different on the website, and they have already got the website in sync with their application, so the dates on the application are correct, I'm told. So I'll make a motion for the Denver application to be approved.
Can I ask the same question? Is your 2018 rodeo fully paid for?
Yes. And we have begun fundraising, and I already had 2 events this year for.
Hereby.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Okay, Bay Area submitted their,
Oh, you skipped Kansas City.
oh, I'm sorry. Kansas City has submitted their, application for rodeo for 2019 to be submitted. And I just realized I was left off Santa Fe, so. Kansas City, is always Labor Day weekend. I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Is your 2018 rodeo paid for?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. You made a motion, was there a
Yes.
second?
Second.
Randy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Bay Area,
That was also sent out. I'll make a motion to approve Bay Area.
one question. Did I see someone, did the dates reversed, so now it's Las Vegas, then Bay Area?
No, it's, Bucket Bay, then, Vegas.
I saw what you're
So,
talking about.
no,
I'm looking at the
it's
website.
reversed somewhere.
Yeah, it
So
was
just
reversed
to
in the
make sure-
email, it was reversed in the email that came out
Oh,
from the
okay, email the
association.
dates, okay, thank you, cause I knew I saw it, we were, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the dates were fixed on the.
Okay, so it's just like it always is, David, right?
Yeah, 13
Okay.
through the 15.
Yeah.
Thank you, I was like, it was,
Third weekend.
yeah, it was
Yeah, on the
reversed
website.
and we were all confused, okay, thank you.
Great.
So who do I give the packet?
Okay.
I have to check.
So who's second for Bay Area?
I second.
Okay.
I carried it all the way here.
David, is y'all's 2018 rodeo fully paid for?
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Amy?
Amy?
Is it just me, or shouldn't Zia be in there somewhere?
He just said,
Yeah.
we need to, we'll
I'm
ask.
sorry, I
Yeah.
must have been that.
So we need to know the actual, what's the actual date on the application?
The date on the application that was sent out was the same as Kansas City, and Rich said that they would not do the rodeo the same weekend as, Kansas City. Brian, do you have any other update on the dates at this point?
Well, we're flexible on the dates. We don't want to step on anybody else's toes, and we want to fit into the schedule. We're flexible on the dates.
So the dates in the application were the Labor Day weekend, and I think there were some emails back and forth that may be doing it the following weekend. So that means then we would have Kansas City, Santa Fe, Bay Area, Vegas, be a rodeo each weekend.
That was said too. So there wasn't,
So there's been a suggestion that we move to June, which we're considering. There's some operational issues with that because the PRCA rodeo exists that month. so we're not sure we can get the facility. If we need to pick a date, we can stay on the August date so that it doesn't cause ripples, and we'll come back with a request to adjust our date once we settle out the calendar and make a request to do that.
That's fair, just so we know it's not the
Yeah.
Labor Day weekend, okay.
Not our intent to be back to back with anybody, to be on the same weekend as anybody. But it's also our intent to have a date that is, that will allow us to be successful with our rodeo. So
Is your 2018 rodeo paid for?
it is.
Okay.
So what's the date that's on the application?
It was it was the same weekend as Kansas.
So what are we voting on? Are we voting on the weekend? Are we voting on Labor Day weekend?
No. He's
What's the
saying
date
he.
what's the date we're voting on?
So he said if it needs to be, right now, he'll put it on that weekend that they normally have on the August weekend.
Yep.
And then they'll look at other dates,
So that's the date we're voting on?
yes.
Okay.
We'll vote on that date and then they can get with the fairgrounds to see if there's another date.
But that's not the date that's in their paperwork?
No.
Correct.
So that will be
So-
noted in the minutes of the
Yes.
meeting?
Yes.
Yes, we will note that what we're voting on right now, or I need a motion, right?
Yes.
Need a motion to approve the Zia Rodeo based on the August 16th through 18th,
Yes.
date at this time.
I'll move. So
Second.
moved.
Second by Amy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
So essentially, the Zia Rodeo is approved, and we know that in January, we'll probably have a date change to vote on, but they haven't approved the accepted rodeo date
Yes.
from the board.
Yep. And if they have something sooner, we can call a meeting to help them out or something. They need to get a contract done, so we have this. Amy?
I just want to point out to, trustees from, Missouri, California, and Nevada, we are not exactly overflowing with officials, and September is gonna be a bitch. So I would urge you all to, get with your rodeo directors and, sort out your staffing sooner rather than later.
Yep. That's important too on this scheduling thing, so if people have enough time. So we're gonna, on the calendar. Okay, next item, I want to, I guess, ask permission. I think it's something that we've needed for a long time. Even goes along with some stuff that Brian's been talking to me about, the 501c3. I'd like to, enlist a legal counsel to ask questions and look at things that we need to at times. I think it's something really important that we need to have for IGRA. So I don't know if we know of anyone or something like that. We'll certainly see what we can do is.
We need pro bono.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna certainly try that. I'm gonna look for that.
It does have not a provision for lawyers.
Yes. Yeah, I just think there's times that we need, legal counsel, and, I think it'd be a great thing that IGRA has one, so. I don't know if that needs to be, need to make a motion for that to be, or is that just something that we need?
We can incorporate it in the budget.
Okay, perfect, alright. The next few things that we put on here is, Erica asked about, starting a new award, and then she asked about, she was going to sponsor it for 5 years, and it's, Woman of the Year Award. I don't know if that even needs a vote or whatever, but it's just something into our awards at convention. And then it would, it comes from the Women's Outreach Committee, so it would be, they would have to come up with some parameters for it, but.
Bylaws should,
Bylaws.
okay. Come to bylaws in convention.
Okay.
But if it's going to be an award that IGRA is going to give out
Okay.
once a year or once every 5 years or whatever,
So It's once a year, but she was
Yeah.
agreed to sponsor for
Yeah.
5, okay?
But
So we can,
I just have a question. Well, what would happen after that 5 years if she chooses not to continue to sue for financial?
then the $25 would be, I'd already be paying it. It'd be like the plaque,
Oh,
you know.
okay.
You pay for it.
So what we do is I just tell her to come up with a sheet of requirements or something and submit it to the bylaws committee. But I brought it up. Okay, the next thing,
Well, on that, we do have, it is being given out on Sunday for this year, just so people know, since it is
well,
already sponsored.
possibly what we'll
Wait,
do
what?
is if
Can't give
we
it
get
out
it
if it's
approved,
not-
well, it will be given out if it's approved. How's that?
Approved it what?
In bylaws,
But that doesn't take effect until January.
unless we make a motion for it to be immediate.
Okay.
Okay, is that all right?
Yep.
We'll just try, we'll try that avenue and it will or won't, so. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to say this, and it's gonna, with all due respect for everybody. But, you know, we talk about being inclusive and we want everybody, and it almost feels like with the women's stuff, we're going to the extreme. We have women's outreach, we have the Women of Rodeos photo, now we're woman recognition. I mean, I think that we're, as an organization, we might be going a little overboard and becoming more divisive. You know, like to Jean's point earlier, growing up, I've hated that there's always this animosity in our community between men and women. There just is, and I don't know where it comes from. I certainly don't think I have it, I hope I don't, I hope no one else in this room has it. But there is this community divisiveness between men and women. And I think we continue to engage in that when we divide our organization between men and women. I would like to see things more cohesive. I don't know what that is, but it's just something that's bothered me and continues to.
Lisa?
All I wanna say is, I think we could solve this issue when it comes up to the, either vote for it or vote against it.
Yeah.
It's not about this particular situation, it's a general statement. I think that we talk about our challenges, and I think this is a challenge that we have. I mean, and it's because of things like this that I think don't help us as an organization, it's my opinion.
Pork chop?
I was gonna say something too, so, I mean, I feel like if it's great if we're gonna have a woman of the year, but then we should have a man of the year.
I would agree.
And if we're gonna have a man and a woman of the year, maybe it's a member of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, there you go.
You know, and that's, I have to agree with both of you, because this was presented, to us or whatever, and then I said, well, we both said, well, wait a minute, it's gotta run through, you know, lots of, channels here, so that's a lot for everybody to talk about and discuss and hammer out. And that's the reason we'll even say, you know, this may not even fly, so, you know, Michael and,
I do think it's important to recognize underserved and underrepresented folks. And traditionally, we have had more men participating than women, and I want to do anything possible to strengthen our women in rodeo and to make sure that the women know that as a man, that we do give a damn and we do want the participation. And one of my marketing employees, you know, when I talk to people about gay rodeo who've never heard of it at all, you know, the very first thing I say is that men and women do the same events. And that's kind of almost a shocking point to some people, that they just can't believe that that's the way IGRA is set up. And we haven't always exactly been the same for men and women, but you know, I think it is important that we recognize that I like the Women of Gay Rodeo, mainly because I think women have been marginalized in some ways traditionally. And when you say rodeo, that traditionally women were felt excluded, and especially the PRCA, it's like, yeah, you can ride barrels. And you know, and we kind of, and it's sort of exacerbated by saying we won't let men ride barrels. It's almost like this barrel thing is so bad
Yeah.
that it's the only thing thing we let the women do, and we know a man wouldn't dare do it. You know, so I find that insulting, you know, I'm not even a woman. And so, I like for us to promote the women of rodeo, gay rodeo, because I do want the women to know, yeah, it is different. And that me personally, and I think many other men, want women to be strong and be leaders and be competitors and to do well. And I love it when the women have better times in the events than the men do. And I was thinking, I think it's great for the women to be kicking the asses. So I do support the idea of recognizing women, and I don't think that necessarily harms men.
Thank you, Michael. This, Michael Norman?
This came up and I'm sitting there thinking we have the women of rodeo, and every rodeo, they get a group picture and post it on Facebook and so forth. The women have been in the shadows of the men ever since I've been involved, but we have an all-round cowboy and we have an all-round cowboy. And so we're recognizing the girls and the men equally as in the all-round category, and then we're doing the women of rodeo. So it gets a little, some people can get the touch on, oh, you don't want to do a woman of the year. It's just, where did we draw the line and what's overboard?
We have a lot of awards, and oddly, as a woman, this really, I find this kind of offensive and separatist. And we do actually have a Member of the Year award, and it's called the Wayne Chiquino Lifestyle Award, which has been awarded to both men and women. You know, I'm all for inclusion. I think it's great that we have a women's outreach committee. I'm not sure, let me stop there. It's nice that they have that committee. It's nice that they take the pictures and they have the little Facebook and stuff. I think that if we approve this, then we need to have Man of the Year. And it's just, it's like, really?
Jeff and then Jack.
As we've listened to the discussions on several topics, I look at what we've done with women's outreach because we needed to give women a voice. They felt very under-supported and represented in the total of our rodeo association, much less rodeo from any associations. So I can understand why we had the women's outreach. I remember when it came about, and it's doing some great things. It's certainly helping internally change the understanding that people have across the genders, which is important for us as an association. I look at what the women's organization has done, and I look at it from a historical perspective. Yes, we have the women of rodeo take a picture of every rodeo, and we just have been, in the last 6 years, just amazed at the breadth of history that's come out of the gay exhibits and what the foundation has done, etc. And it's all cowboy, it's all male. It's important to us because it's part of where we're feeling we all came from, but it's a historical aspect. So I think what women's outreach is doing is a good thing. I don't know that this is the best thing for our organization. We do have Member of the Year recognitions, etc. If they're looking to recognize a woman who has done something for rodeo or done something for us outwardly, then I certainly don't want to slow their role, but I also don't think that it should become a single award.
Jeff?
I just, and then Drew after you. I just want to clarify what I said. The reason I feel, and I agree with Mike and Jeff and so many, I've never looked at women as inferior or, I mean, we're equal. And I don't wanna say I love that the women rodeo take pictures and post it, and we capture that history, I love that. And you know, Mike's point, I hadn't thought about it, you know, when people ask gay rodeo, one of the first things I always say is, every man and women do all events. So I just don't want anything else to divide, there's enough that already divides us. Wow, I don't know where this has come from. As men and women, we don't need anything else to divide us more, in my opinion.
I think this is the same conversation as the gay in the name. You know, personally, I want to be recognized as a person and what value I bring, not because I'm a woman, not because I'm a lesbian, not because I'm married to a brat. I think it's the same thing. We're people, and the value we have as individuals is what defines us, not any label that we put on ourselves.
Very well said.
And she never says anything, so.
She only says what matters.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this recognition something that is coming from IGRA or from the Women of Gay Rodeo? Because in my opinion, if they're wanting to recognize a Woman of the Year, I really feel the Women of Gay Rodeo should be the ones to select this person and have that opportunity to recognize someone with their own group. And I think that separates it from some of the other issues that have been going on here, because it's the women recognizing someone within their own group, and I think that's a great idea.
I think maybe it's just the name. I mean, if it was the Outstanding Woman of Gay Rodeo 2000, it kind of puts the focus on, it's an award coming from the committee, like the Certified Officials Award comes from the Rock. It's not, when you say Woman of the Year, it shouldn't really be that committee, it should be our whole organization.
Got it.
Right?
Yep, and so my suggestion from listening to everybody is here's the way I see this. This person needs to submit something to bylaws or whatever. I'll bring all this up, and that'd be their responsibility to tweak it and see if everybody likes it that way. Is that kind of acceptable? Where it's more like what you're saying, that way, and then that way it'll either go through bylaws or it won't. So it may die right there. So we'll just depending on who all's.
You gotta have the details of that specific award, who nominates it, how's that carried out, and what basis does it merit that this individual should be.
I'm sorry, I mean, the gesture was probably great, but to have actually engraved the plaque already was silly. I mean, because there's no finite criteria, it wasn't sanctioned by IGRA to do it, and so now that plaque is potentially, based on what I've heard in this room, gonna be wasted.
Okay, next subject. So this year, the Rough Stock Progressive Pool wasn't used. It wasn't used a great deal the prior year. It was very confusing, and so I'm going to make a suggestion, and then maybe someone can make a motion or whatever, but that it goes away and that money is dumped into the IGRA general fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead.
What is in the IGO general fund? I mean, what can you spend stuff on?
No, it's just going into going into IGRA.
Awards? Buy awards with it? I mean,
Yeah, to the Women of the Year award. No.
I mean, you could say, I'm gonna put it in finals, you know.
No,
What we buy with
the general fund pays for everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's IGRA's.
It's just IGRA's pocketbook.
Pocketbook?
Yeah.
For we need one.
Sandy's card.
To pay bills.
Got it.
It's $4,258.84.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Perfect. All right, so along with that, and that person's not in the room or whatever, I think the same person came up with this VIP program last year. I know it was started, and then I never heard another thing about it. Is anybody else in this room? Go ahead.
Well, maybe this is something Pork Chop should bring up, but I know that all of the arena crew, certified arena crew coordinators, none of them are recertified. We have a couple people in the program, but this VIP thing never really got off the ground.
We do have one.
Yeah, Devin?
No.
Oh, you got it.
James Chambers.
Okay.
Did you?
Oh, okay.
Did you ever pay anything out on it?
Yes, we paid $300 to Camellia Harper. Camellia Harper,
Right. And how much money do you have left in there?
$625.50.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just gonna like sit there.
Who runs it?
Well, Alina brought it.
Alina brought it to us.
University.
Well, no, then in February, is that where we were? Yeah. When we were at the board meeting in February is when she brought the whole packet. And this was to assist. No, it was in
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Oh,
It was Phoenix. So I see it, that was that one fundraiser, and then we paid one person out, and nothing's ever happened again.
Well, I think because she started competing and she kind of changed course.
Yep. So,
I guess, question I have, I would ask Pork Chop. We have a lead for arena director, we have a lead for shoot coordinator, we have judges, but we don't have a lead person for arena crew coordinators.
Yeah, okay.
Do I?
It falls under, it falls
That's
under
Gene.
arena.
Okay.
yes. That has already been beaten to death.
yeah.
Arena director, I mean, the arena crew coordinator is a small subsidiary, just
Right.
like
Yeah.
auditor, secretary, scorekeepers. Because the arena crew coordinators, if there isn't one, that responsibility falls.
Falls,
on the
yeah,
arena.
okay.
So, do we wanna leave this in place and talk to the one arena person we have, or what we?
Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm just asking.
I'm nobody.
I make a motion that we dissolve this and move the money back to the.
There is no money.
Yeah, there
Yes,
is.
there is.
$600 left.
That's not Jerry's money, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
It was,
And
it was an
anyone
IGRA program, we approved it, the board approved this, but then now it's just, it's another
Just sitting there.
thing that's sitting there that nobody's doing.
Sorry, point of order, there's a motion,
Oh,
which I
sorry.
second.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
Sorry.
Any discussion?
That's now.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sorry. My fault. So there is money, but it's, okay.
But it was earmarked for that, and the person who sanctioned the program, or, what do you wanna call it?
Presented the program.
Incepted the program, is not here to give us any feedback. So I don't know if it would be appropriate to abolish the program and move the money that was already earmarked for a certain purpose.
Lisa?
That's an IGRA program, isn't it?
Yes?
Why can't we vote on
Cause they know about you, I'm just telling them.
Well, I see what Pork Chop's saying, but we just did it with the other program, and that money came from all of our associations who, over the existence of it, raised money to put into that,
Yeah.
earmarked for that, and we just abolished that and put 4,000 or however much you raise in the fund, so I'm not sure why abolishing it for 600 in the fund
Okay.
is much different.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Okay.
Abstention, I don't understand.
That's a no vote.
Okay.
Okay, so something I noticed when going through the bylaws, and the reason I put this, and I have no idea, I'm going to ask Benjamin, but I noticed that all of a sudden your job and everything was eliminated. Anyway, I don't know how it happened. It was there last year, and now if you look, it's not there.
Used to be an exhibit.
Yeah, well, no, but prior to the exhibit, it still was said that it was the president,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, right.
and then it gave a brief description, and then it said, see exhibit E or something
Right.
like that. That whole paragraph's missing now, this year. have no idea what happened to it, so I'm gonna get with Benjamin and see about it being put back. And then the exhibit, and he sent it out, okay, so I asked Roger, we went back, because Tommy looked for it, Patrick looked for it. We looked at trying to recreate the exhibit or whatever, so maybe we can tweak that this weekend or something and get it back so the exhibit's back. But the, Roger found one in the old documents from like 2009, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just need to update that, and I'll get Benjamin to find the old paragraph that's missing, and then we just need to, I guess, try to fix this matching what your duties are. Go ahead.
Okay, so with that being said,
Yes.
you said, so do we wanna set aside a committee to redline the existing, that has been sent out? 'Cause
Yes,
it
sir.
definitely needs redlining.
Were you going to be on the committee? It's a joke. Yes. You
I'll
got it.
chair the committee.
Yeah, okay. I don't know about that. Okay. Yes.
I think it would be important to
Yes.
set a definite, committee.
Yes.
And time, so that this is done and not procrastinated.
Yes, sir, I agree with you. I'd love to be on that committee with you.
I'll be there.
Okay?
Definitely.
Right? Yes. Anyway, okay. The next one was Michael's.
With,
Go ahead.
one final thing.
Go ahead.
So, in a committee meeting, where would that fall? Would that fall under bylaws? Where would that go?
It was in bylaws.
It was in so in bylaws committee, perhaps is where we need to address?
Yeah. Because I'll have you bring that one bill back and then we'll redline that.
Perfect.
Document. That's the soonest one I could find, or the youngest one I could find on that document.
Okay.
Okay, I think the next one was Mr. Norman. Oh, is it lunchtime? Yes, it is lunchtime.
Kevin?
What are we, Kevin? Is it lunchtime? It was noon our lunch?
I can go check if they're ready.
Okay.
I think we told them one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, well, we have another hour.
Let me go check.
I guess. I think the only other, Mike, or when I was talking to David earlier, we were talking about these programs that, IGRA pays out. And the only other one we wanted to talk about, we brought this up in the last, one of the last meetings, and want to bring it up again, is the rodeo school support fund. I just wanted to, encourage everyone to have more than just like 2 events or something like that. So, David and I were talking a while ago, whatever, can we go with something like you have to have at least 4 or 6 or something like that? Is there any suggestions in here that when we do this support, that, you know, it's not just for a couple of events, that we encourage to have more events when you're having these rodeo schools? Any thoughts?
There are easier ways. Oh, sorry.
Is it good for you?
Whoa!
Way to be not, and Michael be looking at red.
I did not know what you was talking about.
Look at the red.
You had us convinced for a while that we're home.
Okay, Michael,
And that's on camera.
exactly.
You know, we've always been close.
Michael, no. Caught me off guard too.
Can you confirm what the parameters of the program are? I know that there is
There's none.
X number, no,
Well, you
there's
just
X
have
number,
to-
X number of dollars for up to 4 rodeo schools a year is what was originally set up. Do we
I
have?
think it was 2 per division were allowed, is that correct?
Okay, was it 500 each or?
Yep, 500.
Yes, 500 each.
Yeah.
I don't know about the division, but originally it was 1 per division. 2 per.
2 for individual.
Okay. So we have 4 divisions, 2 per division.
So it'd be $1,000 each, so it's $4,000 a year.
Yeah. Now, I guess my other question, because right now we have very little documented. We have no, Caleb in Phoenix at the board meeting said you need to have procedures, you need to have processes. We have none of that. And so this is, I think, a good example of something that could be beneficial to have in some sort of documented procedure process, how it works, what you do, when you do it, how it's done. And I guess I don't know if my association wants to have a rodeo school. I go and do a rodeo school, and then I send them the form to Grants to give me $500. I'm thinking that rodeo school needs to have approval from IGRA. If you want $500 from IGRA, we need to know ahead of time what you're planning to offer and what have you, than just being informed afterwards with my handout for $500.
Yeah, well, that was kind of like updating this form on procedures, like making sure that it's on Frank's calendar no less than 60 days prior. And I mean, there's so many things that I think we need to make sure, especially since we're, the money's coming from, the support money's coming from IGRA. But I'm just hoping that we're using these rodeo schools to hopefully, teach and get new members and stuff like that. I just want to make sure that we're offering enough, Patrick?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I don't think it should be 2 per division. I don't think it should be divisionalized, because some of our divisions are heavier in rodeos and horse people, and not in others. And so, I mean, I don't know that I think IGRA, you guys should approve the rodeo schools that would be covered. I don't think it should stay within division.
Okay, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm all in favor of IGRA saying you got to have at least 6 events or something,
Is that a motion?
Are we discussing?
Yeah, no, but that's what I was asking for.
Move, girl.
Make a motion.
That we're never getting anywhere if somebody doesn't make a motion towards that. Some guidelines, okay, so what we're trying to do is fix the form, right? So same way with like Patrick's, deal is, I think we could somebody make a motion to get rid of the divisional guideline, right? And then someone make a motion on the least amount of events that you can offer. So that's where I'm trying to get with this form so that we can move forward, so. It was just trying to prod you onto that.
So could we, and I'd be willing to head it, make a motion for a committee to come with that and present it at convention this year? So in other words, instead of voting on 7 different things, the committee comes together and votes for approval of it?
In other words, approve a revised form?
Yes, what all the process.
That makes sense.
But this is not, it's not a convention thing, it's a board thing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could do, we could break, right, do one here, Sam, at lunch.
Let's do that.
We could do it at the post meeting or something if you want to, or.
Okay, so can I make that motion?
Yep.
I make a motion that, we have a committee that at post meeting comes up with the procedures for rodeo school eligibility.
Okay? Everybody okay with that?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam, we appreciate that. Where we were going with this thing.
Thanks, Debbie.
Well, the form online right now says submit the documentation to Phoenix. So the address needs updated.
Yeah.
Okay.
You hear that? Oh, yeah, all those, we'll get one of those printed out. Can we get one of those printed out? Sam, we'll get one printed out where y'all can fix it. See, even the address is wrong on the bottom, so we'll
Okay.
fix all that, okay? Perfect. Kevin, never come back? Okay. So you were.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna take another 10-minute break because so many people need to use the facilities. Sorry?
Kevin said that lunch was gonna be ready in 5 minutes.
Okay, then
About
that's
5
perfect,
minutes
then
ago.
we're on lunch break.
So what time?
When will we resume?
That's a tongue twister.
They'll be ready in 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
15 minutes.
That's gonna be a lot of holding.
You said you wanted to
Take a break.
Okay. All right, hang on, we're gonna continue for another 10 minutes then.
That looks like my nephew's Mustang.
All right, so did you okay. All right, so we had a couple of other new business things brought in. Request to conduct research on helmet use and speed events and IGRA membership. Mr. Helander, I believe this was,
Yes, I'd like to ask permission from the Board of Directors of IGRA to allow me to conduct a survey on our membership to determine some of the attitudes and thinking about the use of protective headgear in speed events. And see what their attitudes are towards the use of that headgear in our association.
okay,
It would be potentially published as a research survey article, don't know for sure. But I think it's an important issue. I'm starting to see some helmet use amongst our membership. I still think there's some potential stigma out there about putting on a helmet based on my discussion with some folks. And what it would require from IGRA is simply allowing me to set up a survey and asking the administrative assistant to invite the membership to participate in the survey. Probably 10 questions.
okay.
Move to grant permission.
Second.
Second by Amy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The second item was our 501c3 status.
You can.
Yep.
So I have some concerns that we as an organization are failing the operational test for a 501c3. And I'm not exactly sure what to do with it. But when I look at how we are operating, I don't see much 501c3 activity going on. And I sort of fear for the direction that we're moving. I fear for our reputation as potentially a bad 501c3. And I would like to ask the Board of Directors to take a focused look at this and determine whether or not we should be a 501c3 or should we turn to being a simple not-for-profit organization.
Could I make a suggestion that we create a subcommittee? And with that, when I was asking about using legal counsel, is I think we should have a subcommittee to research this and get legal counsel's advice as well.
Absolutely.
Is that all right?
I have a question. Our 501c3 was accepted by the IRS, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need a motion on the floor.
Workshop?
I can't make a
Oh,
motion.
go ahead. Brian?
Oh, no. Yes, our 501c3 was, paperwork was accepted by the IRS. However, there's two tests. One is our documents, and a second one is how we operate. So you can have a 501c3 that has the proper documents, but does not operate properly. And what I'm saying is that we are not operating properly as a 501c3. We are failing the operational test as a 501c3.
Can you give an example? How so?
Sure. So, well, we just talked about fundraisers and giving money directly to somebody, right? That's not really allowed as a 501c3. As a 501c3, we exist for the community benefit, not for any private or personal inurement of any individual in the organization. Secondly, as a 501c3, about 90% of our income should be donations should be charitable donations. 90% of the money that comes into the organization should be donations. And 80% of the money that goes out of the organization should be for the benefit of the community. For example, maybe we have, this example may not be exactly spot on, but we feed the homeless. That's the community benefit. Okay. In our particular context, perhaps we do a rodeo school, which is a good thing. But what I'm seeing is that we are going down the path of private inurement for individual people, and I think it's putting us at jeopardy in legally, ethically, and reputationally.
So, I'm sure where you're coming from. My understanding is a 501c3 can only give money to other 501c3s.
That's not true.
Okay.
And that has actually been talked about and justified by one of our associations with an attorney, that it doesn't have to be that way.
Okay. So if we're putting on a finals and raising funds to give to charity, that would be a satisfactory example of meeting an operational test, correct?
Correct.
So then, and then the iJury royalty folks that identify charities to raise funds for, and they raise funds and give to charities in the community, would work as well, or is that not working?
No. We would have to, as a 501c3, our money has to go directly to the community as a community benefit. Okay? We are responsible for tracking that money, where it comes in and where it goes. So for example, let's say we're a 501c3 and we want to be a good one, right? And we take in money and we see an organization over there and say, let's give money to that organization. We don't have any control of what they do with their money, okay? But we're still responsible for that money because we took it in as a 501c3.
So if we raise funds and I say, okay, I'm going to give it to the Dallas Resource Center that is serving the community, are you saying that doesn't work?
I'm saying that doesn't work.
It's legal. I mean, have you filed 990s before?
Yes, I have.
Section 170 point, I think it's 2.3, actually defines, you have to define what sort of 501c3 you are. And in that, one of the categories is whether you give money to other charities. And as long as it's another 501c3, any 501c3 can give money to any other 501c3 charity. There's no question about that, because that's actually the means test and the 30% rule. All of that's related to giving money to other charities.
Okay.
So
Well, we disagree on that.
I can show you the document.
I think we're a 501c3 and we have an obligation to the community. And there may be opportunities to, at some point, give portions to other charities. I'm not sure about that, but as it stands right now, what we're doing now today, we are failing the operational test for a 501c3. Our intention and what we do is a whole other thing.
Okay, so we need to create a subcommittee then, because there's different opinions on how 501c3 are running, or whether it's run or not. So, Port South and Lisa?
I thought we were looking for a motion, right? I said what I had to say.
Oh, I am.
I believe our corporate auditor is a CPA, and perhaps we could use that resource that we are.
That too, yes. No, that's what I'm saying.
And Ms. Kill over here,
I was already putting him on the committee. He didn't have a choice. Lisa?
I was gonna say the same thing, that's what we need an attorney for.
Yep.
Yep.
To make sure we're not getting our.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would like to say something else. I agree with some of what Brian's saying, but he's just wrong about the part about giving money to charities. We do have some issues that we ought to be concerned about, and how we're functioning is within the guidelines of the 501c3.
Okay. Did you consider being on the committee as well? Okay. Brian, you wanna be on the committee? Okay. Anyone else?
I'd like to serve.
Doreen? Michael? Okay. I had David Gill already. He didn't have a choice. Okay. All right.
Hey, Candy?
Yes, sir? Yes, ma'am?
Are we gonna talk about compete?
Yes?
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, so, what are we doing on the lunch schedule right now? We starting at what time?
There's still 5 minutes before we have to break. They're ready if you want to get ready.
Are they already? Let's take a lunch break and how long do we want to take lunch? 45-minute lunch break.
Where'd you go?
There
you go.
Ready?
Sit down.
The next item on our list was creating processes and procedures. I believe Michael put that on there.
Yep. Since I started in April, I've learned we have nothing documented. We go by the seat of our pants for a lot of things. We rely on our bylaws, our standing rules, and rodeo rules, but those documents don't give the detail needed to know what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and so forth. And so what I'm proposing is that we follow through on the recommendation that Caleb made in our January board meeting, that we create a set of processes and procedures so that whether you're the IDRA secretary or you're doing the Wayne Chiquino Award or how we get things posted on social media or whatever, and I made a list of processes that we would start off with. And so I'm thinking we need to, I'm gonna make a motion that I guess maybe the executive board and the IDRA secretary work together to create the processes and procedures that then are kept and maintained going forward. So the secretary knows how to do the service award, how to do the appreciation awards, and so on and so on. I think having documented processes and procedures would help us greatly.
Was that a motion?
Yes, I'll make that as a motion.
And second it.
How do you want to proceed with committees?
Yeah, I'll work with the executive board.
Okay.
Okay. And a comment on, Michael, is part of that plan also a timeline on things like when things, so say from a membership, as a trustee, do the timeline of when this documentation is due, how many days prior and everything like that?
Absolutely.
Like a document we could go
Yeah.
look at and say, oh, I have to have this in by now.
I'll have a document that says, you know, at this point I need to have this done. At this point I need to have this done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lisa?
I'm going back to my old military days. You know, there's things that are decided in this room that don't get put into bylaws and don't.
Exactly.
And back then, you know, in the military, you had your regulations and things. But then you had commander's policies. In other words, commander would come in and say, everybody's gonna wear red on Thursday, and he put out the policy letter. I'm thinking, you know, it wouldn't hurt if we looked at something like the president's policy letters. For example, this, what is it? You call it?
Eligibility for
The school
reimbursement for
request.
school.
Yes.
That would be more of a policy thing than a, if we don't wanna put it into bylaws or standing rules.
Correct.
Yeah. You know, but we need to probably put it in some kind of category instead of exhibits or forms. Cause people don't know if that's the honest to God truth or.
Yeah.
Or what to do. Okay? Yes.
I just wanna say that I think this is a really good suggestion, because the bylaw should be an overarching principles and bylaws of the organization, not the detail, because that changes, right? As the organization changes, the needs change, the timelines of, all that. So removing that stuff from the bylaws and putting it into standard operating procedures or, you know, other types of documents.
Lisa? One other thing, I don't think y'all should limit it to the executive board deciding on these processes, because there's some things that maybe you don't have the experience of going through that process, so you don't really know what to put in there.
Well, okay, I hear
You're
you
talking
going.
about executive board stuff.
Okay.
What the people need, what the associations need is kinda like the big book, the guidebook, that's what we need.
Yeah. What I'm envisioning is that once we've got these policies and procedures and processes in place, they are shared with the entire board of directors. This is this process, this is this policy, this is that process, this is what Michael does, this is what the president does, this is what the treasurer does, this is what the contestant liaison does, this is what the administrative assistant does. You know, quite frankly, there's been things where I'm like, I hope I'm not stepping on Tommy's shoe, you know, where Tommy says, oh, we're doing this, and I said, oh, that was communicated to me 2 weeks ago, and I sent it out to the board, and Tommy's like, why are you, I'm like, I just got an email said, so it would help all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, I think we're gonna move back now, aren't we, Judy?
For me?
So I think we're gonna move back now.
Yes, let's move back.
Okay, so I believe Judy had some good news a few minutes ago.
I have an update I just received during lunch, and it says certified copy, corporate access number, Government of Alberta, Societies Act, Certificate of Incorporation, Canadian Rockies Gay Rodeo Association. The incorporation document is the same as nonprofit.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, I saw that one.
No, well, he has a deal, you did the brief overview, so,
Yeah.
thank you, that was what we needed. Okay, so that was what we needed.
So the meeting on convention floor, the membership chair will recommend the new association be seated.
All right, so, the next deal is, 2019 convention. I believe Colorado is showing a interest in it. There is not a formal bid.
Good word.
How you like that? Is any other associations interested in hosting the 2019 convention? Okay. So is this, board okay with us, Jack, or are you wanting us to approve it and then you can come forward, or you wanna wait and bring everything to February, that's too
Yeah,
late,
we'll
or
have,
what do you
we
wanna do?
wanted to express interest, obviously, we just had our board meeting on Saturday. So we will work on a proposal and bring it to the board of directors meeting in Phoenix.
Okay. Yeah, it's available.
So when we have that bid, we're gonna So you won't be able to speak to anything about, hotel rates or anything like that?
Nothing.
This weekend?
Nothing.
Okay.
So
We decided this at the board of directors meeting on Saturday. Sunday, we had a beer bus that we all volunteered at, and I worked Monday, Tuesday, and I feel like it was Wednesday morning, or Wednesday night, so no. I'm sorry.
Okay, so then, just so I understand, in the Phoenix, if we don't have any other proposals this weekend, any other association could also bid for it at the board meeting in Phoenix, is that
Absolutely,
correct?
that's my
Okay.
understanding.
Okay.
Or if anybody else has interest. We just, CGRA didn't want to go through what we went through last year where there's no interest and then it's a scramble. At least we know we have a viable association that has done it multiple times.
And it is an anniversary.
And it is our, traditionally CGRA does it every 5 years, and this would be the 5th year.
Can you order good weather?
No. And we'd love to have it in Steamboat Spring, I'm just not sure we can afford it.
Oh, you did hear me.
Of course, Madam President.
Okay, so, that being said, we really can't, it won't, we can certainly announce the interest on the floor, we'll be able to vote on it, and it'll have to be deferred to the February board meeting. Okay. What other, Patrick?
Just something on that, I mean, we've gone for several years with the 2-year plan, and we've really gotten off that, and we're just barely struggling from year to year. We need to get ahead of ourselves.
So you're suggesting that people think about 2020 ahead of
Correct.
time?
Yes.
Okay, with, oh, Jeff?
I think Texas should think about a cruise out Galveston in 2020.
I'm worried about people being thrown overboard.
Well, it's funny you say that because when we were talking about it, Jesse and I said, by the time we won't even have quorum by the time the meeting starts. But I am serious.
No, I think that is a great
finals
idea.
is the same way.
I think we really should be looking at both years, so.
Yes.
Hopefully.
2020.
Okay, perfect. Any other new business that, oh,
Well, I have a question.
your old business,
Okay.
go ahead.
I'm wondering where we stand with the compete.
Okay, that was the one.
Stuff.
That was it. Okay, Steve, did you have something before, prior to any of the stuff that was in here?
On 2025? Yeah.
Well, there really isn't, it says 2020 finals, but what's,
Yeah, I want to make a proposal to, have the finals in Scottsdale, Arizona. For
I think that's out of order. Because we'll be talking about the committee this afternoon, and that's the committee's deal of research, but they can certainly.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so compete. So, the Compete magazine, I gotta grab that. So the, Compete magazine, sent the, I guess it's a proposal as far as for doing what we've done the last, couple of years. Yep. It's, would cost us $4,325. Chuck?
A motion to approve the contract.
Discussion? Hang on. Brian? Okay, so Amy's first, then Jack, then Lisa.
I'm not sure we're getting sufficient value for our money with this deal? Does anyone have any idea if we have gained spectators because of this advertising?
Jack?
I don't see, I agree with Amy, I don't see any value, I haven't seen any contestants, I haven't even talked to anybody that's even seen any of the ads. It seemed like we were always following up with them, and we were catching up or trying to, I think it's a waste of money, in my opinion.
Lisa? Besides the program and their advertising, what else do we get from them? I mean, what's in the contract? How can we approve the contract, we don't know what's in it?
I emailed it out to everybody, what I received.
Full page ad in Compete magazine, January through February issue, March through April, July through August, September through October, 3 issues. Website ad on, March through October. It showed 8 of them. Acknowledgement is, 5 diversity awards, tier 5 sponsorship. Let's see what we get. Feature story for the WGRF, WGRF preview to appear in Compete magazine featuring 2 rodeo athletes. Special Compete award to be presented at IJRA convention.
Do they have a award they're presenting here?
This was the same contract as last year,
Right, so
that-
the contract last year, they should be presenting that
Yeah.
award. This one, is it happening?
Chuck, do you know that answer?
What's that?
They're supposed to be presenting an award here. Did they send that with the review 3 or?
No.
Did anybody come?
So they're already in breach of contract.
Okay. Patrick?
I just think, the money could be spent better with social media than with, magazine.
Tom?
I would have a question for the promoters of this motion. What is the expectation from the advertising in Compete magazine? Do we have an expectation on a return for $4,000?
Sam?
Just, if I remember, like from last year, we were, besides the fact that we spent the $4,000 on the magazine, we were only allowed to sell, I believe, 8 advertisements. So, in other words, Compete sold all the other advertisement in the magazine, we only got 8. So, where my question, hopefully that answered part of what you're asking. But, so my question is, with $4,000, us producing our own, as far as a finals program, being able to sell our own advertising, I think the last time we did that was probably Las Vegas. And if it was, I would like to see what how those dollar values all worked out, because I have a feeling we would come out ahead in that.
Lisa, then Michael.
I'd like to bring up that Compete magazine comes out of Scottsdale. So it may benefit us coming up in the future where it didn't benefit us in Texas, in the Texas area. Michael?
Yeah, looking at the contract, the ads that we do, sell, 30% of that has to go back to Compete, if I read that correctly. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's specific to the WGRF edition that they're publishing for us. That's
Okay.
specifically to that one publication.
Okay,
Pork chop and Jack.
Well, I know when this first came about, they were supposed to be a certain geographical area where it was available in print, and that geographical area was supposed to be expanding, I believe, to include Colorado,
Correct.
right?
And the northeast and the northwest.
But I think primarily what I've seen over the last, I think, 3 years is that it's a digital production. And it ends up, I mean, it's getting published like to our Facebook groups or whatever, so we're providing the material for most of it, and we're preaching to the choir as a result of it. I think what we were looking for was exposure, getting people involved, I mean, because it's a sports magazine, in the Southwest region, and I don't really think that's problematic. I think we are preaching to the choir in essence, and paying for it.
Jack and Frank.
I'm just curious why we would even consider approving it when they are already in breach of the contract from last year by not presenting the board the award here that's clearly in the contract. They hold us accountable for the contract. So why would we even consider something that they haven't followed on their bail on the current contract?
Frank?
I don't remember the exact number, but it seems to me that the year that Tom and myself sponsored the finalist program, we put $2,500 into the whole thing. And that paid for everything that got done. So we're talking about, admittedly, Compete gives us more coverage, but if we're primarily looking at it just for the purpose of the program, then $4,000 is way out of line.
I'm gonna go ahead and, say something. You know, we're not, rich by any means, and so when I see us putting dollars out, for something, in this day and time, I'm not gonna jump up and down for it, where I think, you know, I've talked to Sam about, you know, the Scottsdale venue or whatever, and he's, got lots of plans as far as our exposure and social media and things like that, and, you know, we could do a whole lot of marketing with $4,300. I've run into all kinds of roadblocks with, Compete myself. We were offered sponsorships that never happened. This digital, I don't know if y'all saw it, but the one that did come out on the finals, said, RGA, and it said it for a week, and I finally gave up asking to have it fixed. So I would hope that we were as valuable to them as they want to be to us. So I'm not in favor of this. So, any other discussion? Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Can you read the motion?
Okay, the motion was to approve it.
Okay, thank you.
So all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Fails. So, well, I had one other.
You're just making all kinds of money in that budget.
Yes, we are. Was there any other, okay, so that was, any other new business that?
Could I just, briefly make a comment regarding the new association?
Yeah.
First of all, my question is, do we address a rodeo date now?
No,
Or do we wait till?
You'll be seated and then we'll do it at the board meeting afterwards.
Okay. I know there's probably some confusion about ARGRA versus CRGRA, so if I could explain within this group, then if you hear questions, then you might be able to answer them.
That would be
appropriately.
wonderful.
Okay. First of all, I know Canadians have a reputation for drinking, so of course, our very first meeting, in order to get this going was alcohol induced. But anyway, I think that the reason this came forward was because we've heard in the community a lot about it's time. Where's the gay rodeo? Let's have the gay rodeo. It's time. So we're really pulling back. We're gonna start really small. It's gonna be a small venue, similar to Simons Valley, for those of you that have been around as long as I have. And a couple of our taglines, one is back to the dirt, back to the party. It's gonna be basic, it's gonna be about rodeo, it's gonna be about a fun time, it's gonna be about just getting together, and what we're talking about, you know, gay community or straight people open to gay community and that kind of thing. And we are starting from scratch, so the dollars are zero, although don't tell my neighbors on that, we do have a budget. All the people that are on the board are people that are experienced with organizing and starting an association from way back when ARGA was first established. So we're not coming into this really new. We know it's hard work. We know, you know, we're gonna get some negative comments from previous things that have happened, but we're really positive about it. We really wanna make it go. For those of you that, let me see how to phrase this. For those of you that feel like maybe the other association didn't treat you fairly, I apologize for that. We weren't involved with that. I was a competitor like everybody else. And so we're kind of just, we'll have to get over that hill, but we want to just make it a brand new association, be positive, start small, and grow. And our board members, just for your information, Wayne Schultz, a lot of you know him from up north. He's our treasurer. Heather Murray's vice president. Scott Woodruff is our secretary. Lori Andrews is trustee. Denise Sluggett, or Sluggo, is our rodeo director. And I'm president. As I just mentioned, we were just recently incorporated, so that's really good. All the documents are done. We've dealt with the province, and we're done with that. So we're gonna ask your support. If you have questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll clarify anything you need clarified. As far as ARGA goes, as an association, it has been dissolved by the province because they have not filed since 2012, financials or anything else. So we don't have to worry about that. We're not carrying any of that forward. That's over there. And this is a new association with people that have kind of run associations successfully and fun and financially sound. If you'd like to help us, I encourage you to buy a membership. It's $25. We'd love to have you buy an international membership again. And I know you have memberships for your own associations, but that would just be a great support to us, assuming that we get seated. So if you have any questions, please feel free over the weekend to ask me questions, and I'll clarify whatever. Candy?
So is that like $23.75?
I was hoping you guys would forget about that. Just give it $95.
Get
So.
one down. Okay, I do have a question.
Okay.
So how do you see roadblocks as you go forward with sponsors or people that weren't paid in the past, or the things that happened with the last association? Do you?
I think, Candy, what we have to do is just kind of try and it's hard because gay rodeo in Calgary is gay rodeo in Calgary, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna say, oh, you guys are the gay rodeo.
Yeah.
But we have to differentiate ourselves and just say, you know, that was then, we have no control over what happened then. I know that many people, you know, will be a little upset, Jack included. And I understand, you know, like, and many of us were too. But I think we have to just separate ourselves, take the high road and say, this is a new association, this is how we're dealing with it. We're totally transparent. If there's any questions that you have, we'll answer any questions anyone has. We can't reimburse people that bought weekend packages or those kinds of things because obviously we just can't do that. So I guess we just kind of have to try and separate ourselves. So if you have any suggestions, I'm all open for that. And, you know.
Jack and Amy.
So first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to see you come back on. And just a thought I have, I would probably just always say, hey, we're a new association. We're different. Don't say that was then my suggestion because then people will associate.
Yeah, yeah.
Just say we're new, right?
Okay.
This is our, so anyways. Your board of directors is solid, amazing. Yeah, it's an incredible selection. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I was reading through your Bible closet. So this just for continuity, this board will be in place for a year, according to your,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, and then at the AGM, some of those positions, like odd year or even years, will be voted on, yes.
Well, I look forward to buying a membership and supporting you and voting in favor of being seated, and I congratulate you
Thank you.
for all of the effort you and your board of directors have put forth on this.
Thanks. I think one of the other things we're really focusing on and listening to the conversation around here is we have some new people that are really young, they're really into social media, they're really excited about it, and they got in at the very end of ARDRA and really got a taste of it, but didn't really get the experience, and so they're going, oh good, let's do this. So we're really gonna try and hit the younger market and try and get more people.
And I miss Simons.
I know, this isn't quite as sweet as Simons Valley, but it's a small venue.
Thanks, Jamie.
What Candy said, what Jack said, and, are you, anticipating that you will have strong support from the gay community in Calgary? with the new
Absolutely.
group?
We're going back to, and I know we're not technically supposed to do this, but in the old days, we had phone outs.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not just doing social media. We're gonna get the old guys that used to come and drink their faces off and say, come on out and party with us again, and let's just have a really good time. So we're doing phone outs, we're doing social media, we're doing it all. We really need to re-engage the gay community, and we need to get them involved again.
Fantastic.
Gene?
It sounds as if, you certainly have the right direction, you're certainly headed the right direction. I'm gonna ask the tough question.
Yeah.
Or one of them probably. I'm not a lawyer in any shape or form, and anytime I try to be, I usually end up the one in trouble. But I assume that your new corporation has checked with a lawyer to make sure that there either is none or very limited possibility of any of the larger creditors coming after your association simply because of the nature of it is where
Right.
I would come from. Can you?
Yeah, I can address that. We have had, the provincial records looked at and legally, and that's what I was saying is that they have been dissolved by the province. So ARDRA no longer exists. There's no private charges against anybody or any of that kind of stuff. So they no longer exist. They're just gone. And the province does that if you have so many years that you haven't applied or filed or anything like that. And so from 2012 on, nothing happened. Or 2012 was the last filing. So in the province's mind, they don't exist. None of those debts exist. Nothing. It's done.
It's important that you guys have no liability for what
Right.
happened with the other associations.
Absolutely.
That's what I was getting
Yeah.
at, is that you, and I assume that when you say the province is gone, that means that without that association listed within the province,
Mhm.
then there could be no action taken against that entity.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's completely dissolved. It's completely
Okay.
like off the record.
That's
Patrick and then Jack.
Assuming that you will be seated, which I have no doubt in my mind that you will not, what possible dates are you looking at for your rodeo? Are you going back to the first?
We're hoping to get our weekend back June, this year, 2019, it'll be June 28th to the 30th. That's what we're hoping for.
Is Foothills, because your application says Foothills, is that
Mhm.
just like a little metro?
Well,
Calgary?
Foothills is kind of the whole rural area.
Okay, so the
That's
same
where
area.
we are and where Strathmore is and all that, that's all Foothills.
Okay.
The area, we have a couple options. One, the one that we're really leaning toward is a smaller one, it's called Indus. And it's south of Calgary, it's closer than Strathmore was to Calgary. It's a small venue, they really wanna work with us. They really don't want money up front. They wanna collect and divide so that we all gain from it. And I asked the girl in charge manager and I said, so is your board okay with the gay rodeo? And she goes, yes, she goes, my husband and I have been at your gay rodeo. She goes, in fact, He had a lap dance from Joanna many years ago. And he thought that was awesome. And they've helped move cattle and stuff for Doug Richards. And she goes, there was some kind of giggling around our board table when we talked about the gay rodeo. So she said, I don't know, I didn't get it. Something about pole bending. Okay, whatever. But yeah, and she's very open to working with us. The arena's the right size. They have roping boxes already. We're working on chutes. They may buy some because they want to do a bull busting at some point. So they're very open to making this work. So, Michael.
So, reading the bylaws, now the eligibility requirements have been fully met. It says the membership committee chairperson will refer the applicant's information to the board of directors for consideration as a recognized association. Then the new members could be recommended for being seated Saturday as a member association.
Okay.
So technically, I guess I would make a motion that we recognize the new Rocky Gay Rodeo Association as a recognized association by the board of directors.
Second.
It's Canadian Rockies.
You got the money.
Yes.
Did that check burn a hole right through to David?
Reach in your pocket. My underwear's hot.
Whoa.
No,
They
sorry,
make
no,
medication for
no,
that. When she turned, like,
Okay. Yes, the check is already over here. Maybe you want.
I'm really, really impressed with your board. It's really, it is a badass board. And most everybody in that group has been involved in rodeo production previously. However, I'm just a teensy-weensy bit concerned that the end of June is not very far away. I mean, are you satisfied that there's sufficient time to get everything taken care of?
It's soon, but we believe so. Yeah, we're confident that we'll, and part of it is like the transparency I've talked about. I mean, we're starting from scratch, and we all know that. We've done it before. When we got involved with ARGA, there were $15,000 in the hole, and you know, you don't spend unless you have it. So, yeah, we're confident that we're going to make it happen.
Right on. Is this, sorry, the Indus Recreation Center, is that the place?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the Indus Recreation Complex, and they have a hockey floor cut very much like Strathmore did.
How do you
where
spell
we can have
that?
a dance and that kind of thing, and INDUS. And they've got, we can camp there, they've set that up, there's showers in the locker rooms, there's, you know, a lot of facilities for us. So we could.
David?
From the contestant side of things, are you guys considering that it's a long haul and there might be some added money?
Of course. Is that the right answer?
Yep.
Yes, we'll do everything we can to make that happen. And just so you know, we're buying, I don't know if you're gonna do it again this year, but we're buying for that $1,000 or whatever it was for the ground, because these guys are really over the top about getting the right dirt and the right everything. So, yeah, they're very good.
So it's indoors?
No, outdoors.
Oh, okay. That's a little.
So it'll be here.
There's the arena right there.
Okay.
I think that's before the roping box. Oh, no.
This is, this picture is from August 2015.
Yeah, that's before the roping boxes were put in the cameras.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Welcome. Oh, announcements. We'll do announcements. Yeah. Any announcements?
No.
Randy? Steve? Michael? Oh, Jerry Michael, Brent.
Oh,
Sorry.
come to our rodeo, President's Day, February.
Kenneth?
Always, every day weekend, come see us.
Brian?
Likewise, and Jerry, we're planning a rodeo school for that Friday.
Jeffrey? Okay. Lisa?
This weekend, the SRA has their annual raffle, Christmas raffle going on. So be sure you see Sandy or myself or any other DSRA member floating around. $5, you could win 600, who knows?
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
Just make sure you don't say that too loud in the
Right.
What? I didn't hear anything.
Amy?
Pass. What about Michael?
Well, he already passed a while ago. I didn't make him pass again, he already passed once.
What about Jeff? Jeff is before.
He should pass too.
Yeah.
I must have been that.
Amy.
Sorry, Jeff.
Sam?
Red River is trying to work on a rodeo school before the Arizona Rodeo. Right now, tentatively, the date was looked at January 26th, so just keep that in mind. The nice thing about that rodeo school is it offers virtually every event that's in a rodeo. So it's an all-day deal. It's not set in stone yet, but we'll know soon enough, so just keep that in mind.
Make sure you let me know when you have it.
I will do that, right? And then, the other thing is, right after this adjourns, I believe is when we're gonna sit down and do the eligibility, what you need to be eligible to receive the reimbursement for your rodeo school. So if you wanna be involved in that, we'll take care of that right after this.
Well, you got a few more meetings and then that.
That's what I meant, so after.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
It's only 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's around one.
Chuck, anything? You're still viable right now, so I was like, you, okay?
Nope.
Nobody here. And we'll end with Kevin.
No, North Star's here too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gene, sorry.
North Star, I'm proud to announce that about a week and a half ago presented a check for $5,000 to the Aliveness Project in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We did, that was voted on the board to give that. We did retain funds for our 2020 rodeo, but it was exciting that we were able to still give $5,000 to our appointed charities. And trust me, it made a big impact on the people of North Star because that board is full this year. The election of that board was in September for next year, and we were able to fill all the positions. So that was a good thing.
That's great. Okay, going back to Jack.
Sorry, I forgot. CJRA, as you know, last year on Friday, we had the junior rodeo, and it was very successful. I just want, so this year, and Robert is our rodeo director, potentially, or is for 2019. We will be moving that junior rodeo from Friday night to Saturday night. For better attendance and spectators and stuff like that. So those of you that enjoyed it on Friday night, please stick around because that'll be Saturday. Sorry, I meant too much.
Okay. Now, Kevin, I'm sorry.
I just want to welcome everybody to Salt Lake City. Hope your stay here is nice. The hotel's been very accommodating to us. The bar is going to try and open early in the evening, and it does go till 1 in the morning. It sounds like the dance committee is going to have a dance on Friday night here in the hotel, and so we want y'all to come and join that. Tonight we're having a meet and greet down at the Sun Tavern. They have a Will and Grace night, I think it is down there tonight, I'm not sure. But there's probably going to be finger food or even food available. You go down there. We have armbands available for you. If you keep them on all weekend, the bars become very popular. So if you go down other than tonight, just keep that armband and you don't have to wait in line, they'll let you right into the bar. So the line can sometimes be an hour long on Friday night and Saturday night down there. Also on Saturday night here, we're having the Saliva Sisters. Those who have seen them understand what spit is. And we hope you'll come and enjoy the girls. They're a lot of fun. And they're very excited to be back involved with the gay rodeo again. For those of you who don't know, there are 3 ex-straight Mormon girls.
No such thing as an ex-Mormon.
I don't know about the ex part, but they're a lot of fun. And
Let's say that they're pretty jacked right now.
but they will be performing their hits Rawhide, Stairway to Nordstrom's, and probably Shelley Winter Thighs. So we hope you come and enjoy them. Any questions or problems you have, please don't be afraid to approach me or my President Rayanne Grove and Vice President Katina Turio. I hope I say her name right. And welcome to Salt Lake.
Is that, did you say the Sun Tavern, is that Sun Trap?
The Sun Trap.
Sun Trap. Okay. Sorry.
I knew. Any other announcements that I've missed?
Yes.
NGRA will be holding its royalty competition on Thanksgiving weekend, Saturday night at Flex. If anybody is in the Vegas area and wants to holiday with us in Vegas, please come by and support our royalty competition.
And we're having a rodeo.
And we're having a rodeo next year.
The question was in the now it'll be impossible.
I just wanted to say that I'm going to be working on some rodeo rule stuff out here while you guys go on with the rest of the afternoon meetings. So if there are some rodeo rule proposals that have come out since Michael emailed everybody, and we could save a little bit of time if they're already written up, I can start getting them in the computer and get them ready. So if you have anything, bring it to me and I'll get it in the computer.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Well, I guess we can vote on it. Okay. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye. Hit your gavel.
Yes. Opposed? We are adjourned. Okay. We're going to call the executive board meeting in session at 2:20. Yeah, no, we messed up. We have the, I sent a list to the executive board. It was the people that responded to Michael and I with interest on being on the 2019 WGRF committee. Christy Michaels, Buck Beal, Patrick Terry, Corey Blair, RJ Michaels, Jonathan Sutter, Sam Merriman, Wade Earp, Robbie Hagel, and Charles Hancock. There's a few of those positions where people want to fall in place they're not ready for, but they want to fall in order of the future directors program. And Boogie. Okay, hang on. And David didn't submit by someone that asked that.
Candy, there's a few that do not want to.
Yeah.
But still want to be involved.
Yeah, okay, so just for clarification, there's several that want to be on this committee and work, but do not want to wear black shirts. Okay? Buck Bill reached out to me, after speaking to, Boogie and speaking to Sam about, the 2019, director position. Showed a lot of interest. The other ones I talked to, they wanted to follow in the program so they could learn, but Buck's the only one that has, said that he would love to be the 2019, director. So, okay.
How many people are we looking at to be actually be on the committee? Exactly. What's the name?
Well, they would the only reason we wouldn't allow somebody is if there was something
Okay.
That's correct.
wrong.
It's open.
Yeah, okay, so there's this committee, and there's all kinds of volunteers. And we put in a deadline because, you know, last year there was a deadline, there was several, like 2 people that submitted afterwards, and, Ron was very, adamant about not allowing someone. We just had someone else ask about being on the committee, so I'm going to ask the rest of the executive board is, do we wanna hold safe to these deadlines, or what do we wanna do about that? So, that's, you know, we put it out multiple times, asking people on social media, we sent the trustees notice over and over and over, so,
Are you referring now specifically to the black shirts? That's what I have a question too. When you're talking about them, about holding fast to the dates and what you currently have, that's what I'm asking, are you talking specifically?
It was the 2019 committee. The way we framed it is we asked multiple times, anyone wanting on the 2019 committee.
As a whole, which may be 20 people.
Yeah, but it was only
So
like
that was-
8 or 10.
Okay,
2, 4,
so that's
6,
not
8, 10.
the black shirts. that you're
Some of them are.
Some, okay.
It included it. It was the entire.
It's inclusive, okay.
It's inclusive.
That answers my
Okay,
question.
that was the first piece. So, do we, so in this, So is it?
So with the date, so with the goal post that you had in place, if you said you're going to go with what you have now, and in February or March, someone come and said, I want to be on the committee, would that preclude them from joining the committee?
In my mind, no. I don't know why this deadline was ever put in place. I'm just going along with what was done in prior, and that's the reason I'm asking for this executive board to help with guidance here. Chuck?
There does seem to be frequent transitions in this, people coming in and out, which is fine, there's no judgment there. I think it's something we should encourage people to come in and be a part of, you know, as long as we can get them in the right role where they need to be. I think we can use a lot of contributors in there, and it just shows us being inclusive, so I don't have a problem opening it up and allowing other people to come into it.
I didn't either, and last year when the people like missed the deadline, I told them to go ahead and just be volunteers for it. They might not be said they were on the committee, but certainly volunteers, so, so we can.
I also have to hand it.
Okay. Go ahead then.
Oh, okay. So just for the executive board, I guess, my understanding of that current bylaw or standing rule that it was, same as Tommy, was those were the black shirts. That program, that you were selecting that group of 5 or whatever, and then from there it was the committee that went on. So that, I agree, Tommy, I believe that was the language that was used as far as where the executive board will seat or set the, I applied last year to get back in the black shirt program, and yes, because I was late offering my services, I was not, allowed back into the black shirt program again. And then yes, you could join the committee itself in separate, but there's it's twofold, 2-tier type of system. There's the black shirts, and then there's a committee that helps the black shirts.
But with that being said, there really wasn't there's not a date, and this date was thrown out, and so I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But then there was this date, and there's no, yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so, all right, so that being said, okay, so there's several black shirts, but there's several people that don't want black shirts or whatever, so, and then wait a minute, so some of these black shirts don't want to be in the director's position.
That's correct. And that's where I was gonna say, we need to get back to this, the whole way this program was designed and was working very well, that was created by Brian.
Well, and it's in to go, because we submitted it last year, and then Ron didn't bring it to the committee, so this year it's back in, so it will be submitted the right way.
Because it was working.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to add. There is Fin 1 and Fin 2 for convention floor, which talks specifically about the black shirt.
Exactly. Chuck?
So can we maybe look at each role first, such as maybe the director role. If I'm reading this correctly, it looks like Buck is wanting to be the director, but those that would, in the roles of rolling up, are not ready to move into that role.
Yes, they said they would like to.
So we need a motion to appoint Buck as the director for
Yes,
the
sir, that's what-
2019
Yes, sir.
WGRF finals.
Yes, sir, is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Thank you. You want to wait until discussion or what do you think?
Did you know that? Did you know this was there?
Huh? That's good. Well, okay, so it's on the executive, this is only the executive board that can be,
Voted.
that will, even, okay.
So David can make the motion to make Buck the rodeo director. and then
Well,
someone-
well,
Oh, okay.
Chuck's on it.
Yeah, got, okay.
So we just he seconded it.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so now, I guess we can have some discussion, Lisa, or we're talking.
Did you resolve your question first? Because you were asking about deadline,
Yeah,
and if it's appropriate to select people.
well, I think we did, I think everybody, the executive board, I don't think they really care about the deadline.
I'm good on that.
Okay, all right, Lisa.
Before y'all take your vote and everything, I thought Charles Hancock made it clear that he wanted to be on the board and move up.
He made it very clear that he wanted to stay on the deal, but did not want to move up.
Are you sure? Because.
At finals, he came to me directly and said, I want to stay involved with WGRF. I said, okay. He said, contrary to what you may hear, I still want to be involved. I don't want to move off finals.
Right.
I said, I'll make sure.
Right.
No, but he said
He never said, he wants to be he wants to move up.
okay, well, that's a different conversation that I think he said he loved being the, okay. All right, I heard something totally different, okay. All right, Chuck.
I'm good with amending my motion to appoint Buck Beal or Charles Hancock, and we can do a vote on that. My fear is I don't know what information from Charles is right. Does he or doesn't he?
He does.
Okay.
Regarding Buck Beal, what is Buck Beal's qualifications to be?
We have a motion on the floor trying to amend it, so can we get that?
Oh, to amend?
First, you get the person,
Then we'll do this. Sam, do you
second,
approve that second?
the second. Are you okay with the amending? Okay.
No, it wouldn't say.
Now we're just
So the
discussion.
amendment fails. Okay. We're back to Buck Beal.
Yeah,
Because I don't wanna support that, that's why.
Oh, I thought,
I don't understand the.
I made a motion to amend my motion
yeah,
to include Charles and Buck for
okay.
the director
And
position.
David was your second, but what did Sam have to do?
Sam did not support it, so the amendment failed, and we go back to the motion to approve Buck as the director.
Oh, okay, we thought he
I
was the
had
second,
David
we had
as the
David as the
second.
second, so we were trying to figure
Oh.
out what happened, okay.
Well, we're hearing a different thing over here.
Okay.
Okay.
Huh?
This is being broadcast on the internet.
Can you go
It's a personal
silent,
amendment.
Frank? Yep, since
What?
we,
Are we broadcasting?
Yes.
I think we need to
You want to mute it?
mute.
Okay.
And I ran it for the full amount of $1,100. The paperwork is still in question.
Do you don't have the paperwork?
I do not, and I just checked my email.
Okay. Oh, we're one piece, so you can go, you go back live, thank you. We're one piece closer. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye. Trustee meeting at 3:30? Right here?
15 minutes.
2:30? Oh, 3:30.
3:30.
Yeah. Okay, it's 3:30. Call the trustees meeting to order. Michael, are you ready? The agenda was mailed out.
Morning.
Mailed out. The sign-in sheet is going around, so please make sure you sign in. Michael, do you want to do a quick roll call?
Let me get my
Okay.
copy that's going on. Oh, hell, Michael Brent. Okay, Michael Lenz.
Yes.
Jack Morgan.
Present.
Lisa Smith.
Here.
Liz McDonald. Steve Dietrich.
Here.
Amy Griffin.
Here.
Jeff's not here, David's not here, Kenneth Hall's here. Jeffrey Neal.
Here.
Brian Helander. Gene Frakes.
Here.
Sammy Simpkins.
He's right on his way.
Mark Trammell's not here. Chuck Browning.
Yes.
Jamie's not here. Randy Edlund's here. See, Sammy now. And Kevin Hill.
Yes.
Roll call is complete.
Thank you, sir. First item of business, adoption of rules of debate. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. Steve and Steve, or Jack and Steve. Motion to approve adoption of debate, rules of debate, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I don't have anything under old business unless anybody has something to bring. Seeing none, move to new business. First item on the agenda is the finals rodeo review meeting minutes. Those were attached. So entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Amy. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ken. Discussion? No discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes have been approved.
Bless you.
Bless you. Next item, we do not have these minutes distributed to you, so therefore we cannot review them or approve them, so they will have to be tabled to the next board trustees meeting. So any questions on that? Yes, Jack.
Can I ask why they're not available?
Michael?
They're on a memory stick at my home that got left behind.
So, we had a call specifically on Santa Fe, I believe it was, and Denver, especially a month ago or so, 2 weeks. Anyway, we had the minutes from Santa Fe, but on that call, we never had the minutes from Denver to discuss. But now I'm told that there are minutes from Denver. But has anybody else seen them? Because I have not.
I'll take care of that.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that? Next item on the agenda, certified officials and new scorekeeper. I turn the floor over to Guy and Jack as the co-chairs.
Okay, so before we get into that item of business, Frank, can you pull up that document that I gave you earlier? So this is a recap. So the certified officials who were recertified this year are in the top columns, and then in the middle there, we have the people who did not recertify. or asked to have their certification removed. And then the last one is, we have one person at the moment that I'm aware of that has met all the requirements seeking certification. There may be a couple others, I think that we're going through Jeannie's area that may have to be addressed on Sunday. But for today,
This is all.
the committee's bringing forward Christine Fairbrother to be certified as a school.
For the motion?
Sure.
Amy, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Who's the second?
Randy?
Okay.
You couldn't tell by that deep voice?
No.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Christine Fairbrother has been approved. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And then unless anybody has any questions, that's all I have.
I just have a general question. What happens to the not eligible or not seeking?
They'll just fall off the list. I mean, it's just, this is kind of informational purpose, just so that we know what happened to everyone.
Can they come back in?
They can, and, there's a path for reentry where they wouldn't have to complete the entire program all over again. So, and it's kind of contingent on experience and how recent that experience is. So, hypothetically, if Cammie and Megan came to the committee, Jeannie would create a path, the ROC would approve the path, and then once they met those requirements, they can get their certification back.
Somebody else have their hand up? Anybody else? Patrick?
But it's my understanding that it's still, in order to be a secretary, you don't have to be a scorekeeper, correct? You don't have
Yes,
to
you do.
certify as a scorekeeper.
So we've had that, this is a recent, within the last 2 to 3 years. So to meet the requirements for secretary, you have to be certified as a scorekeeper, but then we've allowed people, once they've gotten to the top of the mountain, to choose not to be on the list for scorekeeper. And or secretary, like in Bruce's case.
Yeah.
Bruce is only an auditor, whereas he was everything at one point,
Right.
then he rescinded his scorekeeper, and then he rescinded his secretary.
I can't see the list from here, but at this point, will we only have one certified arena crew coordinator, is that correct?
James Jenkins.
Okay. Roger dropped from the program, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, he was a student, Judge, so he's not on the.
He was just approved by the trustees to, I mean, he was never a judge. He was still on student
Right.
status.
On our list of certified officials, we list the people that are in the program.
Correct. You
And
can-
so I'm taking him off as well as some other folks.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you again. Reminder that we have the EPRB meeting convening after this meeting. I don't have anything else on the agenda unless anybody has something additional to discuss. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Randy. Seconded by Jeffrey. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is 3:39, probably the fastest 9-minute board of trustees meeting. Are we ready to start at 3:45 for the EPRB? And that is only for trustees and the secretary. Thanks, everybody.
Ooh, I'm glad.